to another rendition of Delete Lawz. This one's going to be a little bit different than anything you've seen from me previously. I'm not sure if you guys remember, I made a video about 5 months ago and I said, I'm going to teach you everything that I know about the US Constitution. And today's that day. Today, you're going to learn all 7 articles of the United States Constitution. Don't worry if the words are backwards. Don't worry if the cards are backwards, because I'm going to break this down. I'm going to flip this horizontally and I'm going to repost it. It's easiest for me if I do this live for you guys and teach you guys the US Constitution. And if you really pay attention, you're going to see that when the revolution comes, I'm going to list things that we have to change. So here's how it's going to work. There are 7 articles of the United States Constitution. Article 1, obviously, is the legislative branch of government. Article 2 is the executive branch of government. Article 3 is the judicial branch of government. Article 4 is the states and how they interact with each other. Article 5 is how you amend the Constitution. Article 6 is the Supremacy Clause, and this is extraordinarily important that you understand what the Supremacy Clause actually is. And then Article 7 is the ratification process, which was done in March of 1789. So there's really only 6 articles of the US Constitution, if you want to know it. So here's how this is going to work. This is Article 1, Clause 1, right here. This is card number 1. Do you see where it says card number 1 right there? This is Article 7 of the US Constitution. It's only 1 card. This is card number 86. This is card number 86. That means there's going to be 86 individual lessons that I'm going to teach you, and you will learn the US Constitution from front to back. So if you want to learn, lock in. Lock in. Sit down. What's that? Can you guys hear okay? I can try to move this bad chicken. If you guys like, I'll do this. Bear with me 1 second. There we go. Stay with me 1 second. There we go. Instagrammers, can you guys hear me a little bit better now? Instagrammers, can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me a little bit better now? I moved the microphone over to right here. Okay, cool. Listen. If you ever wanted to learn the US Constitution, I'm going to teach it to you. I'm going to teach you Article 1, Article 2, Article 3, Article 4. This live stream is going to take a couple hours. I'm going to sit here and teach you the Constitution. And the cool part is that the cards are on my website. But let me finish. Six, 7, 5, 4, 3, 2. Okay, so now let's do it again together, okay? Let's do it again together. What makes up the United States Constitution? The United States Constitution is made up of 7 articles. Article 1 is the legislative branch of government. Put it in the comment section. Article 1 is the legislative branch of government. Article 2 is the executive branch of government. Article 2 is the executive branch of government. Put it in the chat. I want to see you put it in there. Article 2 is the second branch of government of the 7 articles. Article 3 is the judicial branch. Article 4 is the states and how they interact with each other. Full faith and credit. If you go from one state to the other state, your marriage license is still good. That's Article 4. Article 5 is how we amend the US Constitution. Article 6 is the Supremacy Clause, and this is where things get absolutely screwy. And our founding fathers absolutely were just like the billionaire class today. Even though they may have been patriots and may have set this country up for us, the founding fathers absolutely were scoundrels in the fact that they set it up so they could keep their money. It was a scam. But that doesn't mean our whole country's a scam. It means that these individuals in the Committee of Detail, these guys who were land speculators over here, these guys right here, what they did, I'll get into it. and Article 7 is the ratification process. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read each and every card to you starting at Article 1. There's 86 total cards. So we're going to go through every single part of Article 1, Article 2, Article 3, Article 4, Article 5, Article 6, and Article 7. This is the best way for me to teach it so that you guys can lock in. So lock the in and listen carefully to what I teach you. All right, here we go. Article 1, Clause 1. Here's what's on the back of the card right here. Here's how you can learn, okay? The actual text of Article 1 says, all legislative power herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and a House of Representatives. So there's the original text right there. Below it is the layman's breakdown of that text. This clause creates Congress made up of two parts. Often you guys will see this right here. Do you see the Capitol building right here? You see that? Okay, so what this is this is the Senate and this is the House. Do you see how that works? That's the Senate and this is the House. So when you see the U.S. Capitol building from now on, you're going to go, oh my God, that's Article 1, Section 1. The U.S. Congress, the legislative branch of government will be broken up into two different parts, the House and the Senate. The House of Representatives, it gives Congress all the power to make federal laws. No other part of the government can make laws. This is the start of the system of separation of powers, meaning each branch of government, legislative, executive, and judicial, has its own job. So there it is. Now put it in the chat. What does Article 1, Clause 1 do? It creates the two branches of the legislative branch of government, the Senate and the House. They're elected every 2 years. Only Congress has the power to make laws. So a member of your House of Representatives in Florida will write a bill. Then it'll go into committee. And then from committee, it goes up to the bigger part of the House. The House will then vote on it, and then they'll send it to the Senate. And then the Senate has to pass it, and then it goes to the president to sign. So there's Article 1, Clause 1. Let's go to Article 2. Article 1, Section 2, Clause 1. The House of Representatives shall be composed of members chosen every second year by the people of the states, and the electors in each state shall have the qualification requisite for electors of the most numerous branch of the state's legislature. So let me break that down. There's the actual original text, and then I put it in layman's terms for you so that you can learn the U.S. Constitution without reading thou, shalt, ye, thee, all that stuff. So the understanding of Article 1, Section 2, Clause 1. This says the House of Representatives is elected every 2 years by the people. Each state decides who can vote, but the voting rules must be the same as those for the biggest state legislatures, usually the state house. The House is part of Congress that's closest to the people, and that's why they're elected often, every 2 years. So now you've got it. Article 1, Section 1 says that there's going to be a House and a Senate. Article 1, Section 2 says that they'll be elected every 2 years. Pretty simple, right? So now you got it. Put it in the comment section because now you learned it. You just learned Article 1, Section 1, Article 1, Section 2. You've got it. So now we're at card number 3. This is card number 3. Article 1, Section 2, Clause 2. What this says is, this clause sets the requirement to be a representative. So Article 1, Section 2, Clause 2 says that you must be at least 25 years old to be a member of the House of Representatives. You must have been in the U.S., you must have been a U.S. citizen for at least 7 years. Because remember, back when there was 13 colonies, people weren't here for 7 years. They were in England, they were in France. They were in Ireland, but they weren't here. So this says that you have to be a U.S. citizen for 7 years. That means that someone can come over here from Ghana or Zimbabwe or Russia or France or anywhere they want. They got to be 25 years old and have been a U.S. citizen for 7 years. You must live in the state where you're elected. So those are the 3 prerequisites for you to become a member of the House of Representatives. Do you understand that? So is it clear? Put it in the chat for me. What are the 3 parts of Article 1, Section 2, Clause 2. What are the 3 parts of it? Number 1, you must be 25 years old. Number 2, you have to be a U.S. citizen for at least 7 years. Number 3, you must live in the state where you elected. This makes sure that representatives know their district needs, but also understand the nation's laws. There it is. This is card number 3. This is card number 3. These are available on my website. They're $10. Put them on your phone and fucking learn it, because we're going to a revolution and I need you to know your rights. We are going to have to fight for our rights. You have to know what they are. Okay. Now we're moving on to card number 4. We're still in Article 1. Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3. Have you learned? Have you learned? There it is right there. Good guy activism in the chat. I saw your name come up. Sorry about that. Okay. So Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3. Card number 4. This clause originally counted states' population to determine representative government. Enslaved persons counted as 3/5 of a person, but this part was eliminated by the 14th Amendment. The number of representatives from each state still depends on its population today. It also ties population size to how much a direct tax the state would owe. So this is the one that if you truly understand and study the U.S. Constitution, then this is the part right here. Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3. This is the part of the Constitution that never should have been. Ever. Ever. This never should have been. Everybody right now, double tap that like button. Make sure you hit the like button. You can get my Constitution cards on my website, DeleteLawz.com. They're $10. They're cheap, but you're going to learn the U.S. Constitution. So Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3 is the 3/5 compromise. What this says specifically is that black enslaved people, or indentured or enslaved people, because there was also white and brown and purple and all kinds of enslaved people back in 1789, this says that you will count as 3/5 of a person. This is the 3/5 compromise. If you want to remember it, it's Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3. It's card number 4 on the deck of cards that you can get on my website. So now let's move on to card number 5. Card number 5 is Article 1, Section 2, Clause number 4. Do you see it? Article 1, Section 2, Clause number 4. Here's the original text at the top of the card, and there's the layman's breakdown of the card so you understand the U.S. Constitution. And here's exactly how it works. If a House seat becomes empty before the next election, the state's governor calls for a special election to fill the seat. This makes sure that the people will always have someone representing them in the House. So now we know. Article 1, Section 2, Clause 4 says that if there is a gap, or someone dies, or someone gets fired, or someone goes to jail, Article 1, Section 2, Clause 4 says that the governor of that state will appoint someone to the House of Representatives. Write it in the comment section for me. Write it in the comment section so that I know that you're learning, because it doesn't do us any good unless you learn it. Article 1, Section 2, Clause 4 says that if someone dies and they're a member of the House of Representatives, someone gets arrested and goes to prison and they can't serve their term, that the governor will choose a replacement. Article 1, Section 2, Clause 4 means the governor replaces a member of the House. Pretty simple, right? There it is, right there. You got it right there. Thanks, Ant Clown. I appreciate that. We're moving on. This is card number 6. Card number 6, you can get these cards on my website. They're $10, man. Put them on your phone and learn the Constitution. Article 1, Section 2, Clause 5. Article 1, Section 2, Clause 5. The House chooses a speaker to lead it, along with other officers to help run things. Most importantly, only the House can impeach, formally accuse a president or federal officer of serious wrongdoing. This is the final step in removing somebody from office. So, Article 1, Section 2, Clause 5 says that the House of Representatives will choose a speaker, and that the House has the sole power for impeachment. Now, in the new Constitution, this has to change. This has to change. The people have to be able to impeach our leaders by citizen referendum. So in the new Constitution, the people have to be able to impeach leaders through citizen referendum. That's not what it says here. It says here that the House chooses a speaker, and only the House can bring formal impeachment charges against a president or a federal officer. How successful has it been through history? Zero. Absolutely zero. No Supreme Court justice or president has been formally charged with impeachment and lost their job through the impeachment process because it's not backed by citizens. You get a bunch of elitists who are then voting on the elitists. It is such a fucking scam. It is such a scam, okay? The fact that we cannot bring impeachment charges. Right now, put a 1 in the chat if you'd like to bring impeachment charges against the county commissioners in your town, against the governor of Utah. Wouldn't you like to bring impeachment charges against the governor of Utah right now? Isn't he an absolute total scammer? He absolutely is, 100%. But we don't have the power to do it. Only members of the House of the Utah legislature can bring impeachment charges against the governor of Utah. He should be impeached and he should be ran out of office. But that's not what's written down. We have to change this in the new Constitution, okay? Are we with me? Put a 1 in the chat if you guys got it. You understand it now. Article 1, Section 2, Clause 5 says that the House of Representatives, this one over here, the House of Representatives, they will pick a speaker and they have the sole power of impeachment. This is card number 6 on the deck of cards you get on my website. Pretty simple. Card number 6. Card number 7. Card number 7. Article 1, Section 3, Clause 1. So we did Section 1 and 2. Now we're at Section 3 of the U.S. Constitution, Article 1. Here's what it says. Each state shall get 2 senators and they'll serve for 6 years. Originally, they were picked by state legislators. So in other words, originally all the way up until 1913 with the 17th Amendment. The 17th Amendment then made senators electable, and it'll be right here. They were originally picked by state legislatures, but they were then elected directly by the people in the 17th Amendment. Every senator votes counts the same, no matter what the state size. And why did they set it up this way? Why did they set it up that the state senators would be appointed by the elected members of the House? This was to ensure that slavery couldn't be abolished. That's the reason why this was set up this way. Okay? Was there 24,000? I don't know why that says that. I have no idea. I don't care if you lost respect for me. I don't give a fuck, dude. You think I really care? I don't give a shit. I didn't do this. Eat a dick, dude. Okay. I gotta stay focused here because I get trolls in my chat, talk shit. But if you want to learn the U.S. Constitution, I'm sitting here teaching it to you. Article 1, Section 3, Clause 1. Senators will be appointed by the House of Representatives. That changed with the 17th Amendment. I believe it was in 1913. The 17th Amendment changed it. And the reason why each state got 2 senators is to ensure that slavery couldn't be abolished. That was the entire point. If you don't know, I just taught you. Now you know. That's card number 7 on the U.S. Constitution, Article 1, Section 3, Clause 1. Let's keep going. Card number 8. Card number 8. Article 1, Section 3, Clause 2. Article 1, Section 3, Clause 2. This set up the system where only 1/3 of the Senate is elected every 2 years. So there's always experienced senators in office. Immediately after they shall be assembled, the Senate shall be divided so that only 1/3 may be chosen every 2nd year. So let me explain to you in the very beginning. In the very beginning, when it all started, okay, here's how it worked. In 1789, when George Washington became president, they sat the Senate. But remember, there was only 13 states. You see that? There was only 13 states. So that means we only had 26 U.S. senators. 13 states equals 26 U.S. senators because every 2 years. Now, let me explain it to you. Let me explain it to you because you have to understand this. And the way they did it, the way it was set up, is it was done on a stagger. So when George Washington was sat as president in 1789 and there was a Senate that was elected, what happened was 2 years later, some of those senators were up for re-election. And then 4 years later, some of those senators were up for re-election, even though they haven't served 6 years, because they put it on a stagger. That means 1/3 of the country every 2 years has a senator election. And that was set up all the way back in 1789. All the way back in 1789. You guys, on YouTube, I have no idea why there's 25,000 people watching. I have no clue. But there's only 84 likes, so those are not real. You guys double tap the like button. Hit the like button if you would real quick. Okay. So every 2 years, they're going to stagger the senators. That's Article 1, Section 3, Clause 2. That's card number 8 on your article cards that you get on my website on DeleteLawz.com. If you want to learn the actual Constitution, here it is right here. Okay. Card number 9. We're at card number 9. Card number 9 is Article 1, Section 3, Clause 3. If you don't know the U.S. Constitution, this is Article 1, Section 3, Clause 3. And here's what it says. To be a senator, you must be at least 30 years old. You must be a U.S. citizen for at least 9 years, because remember, when there was 13 colonies, sometimes people weren't here. They got over here in 1785. By 1789, they couldn't run for U.S. senator because you have to be a senator for at least, you have to be a U.S. citizen for at least 9 years. Then you have to live in the state you represent. This ensures that senators have experience and know their state's needs. Now, here's the ironic part, is you have to be a U.S. citizen for 9 years, but you don't have to live in that state for 9 years. You can, if you're a resident of that state and you've been a U.S. citizen for 9 years, then you can run for Senate of that state. Okay? Okay. Forgive me, there's just me here, so I'm doing all the sound and all the lighting and everything else. Okay, so that's Article 1, Section 3, Clause 3. It's card number 9. It's card number 9 on your article cards that you get on my website, DeleteLawz.com. Card number 10. Card number 10. Card number 10 is Article 1, Section 3, Clause 4. Article 1, Section 3, Clause 4. Now let me read it. This says that the House of Representatives is elected every 2 years by the people. Each state decides who can vote, but the voting rules must be the same for those in the biggest state legislature, usually the House. The House is part of Congress that's closest to the people, and so they are elected. Oh, I'm sorry, I read the wrong card here. Article 1, Section 3, Clause 4. Article 1, Section 3, Clause 4. The Senate picks its own leaders, including a president pro tempore, a temporary president officer who runs the Senate if the vice president isn't there. This role usually goes to the longest serving senator from the majority party. So you know how you get the leader is Mitch McConnell? Why is Mitch McConnell the leader of the Republican Party? It's because the Senate picks its own leader called a president pro tempore, and the temporary presiding officer who runs the Senate if the vice president isn't there. The vice president is the president of the Senate when he's present. If the vice president is not present, then the leader is pro tempore. And so that is typically the longest running senator from the majority party. That's why Mitch McConnell was the leader of the Republican Party. Okay? So that's card number 11. Card number 11 on the article cards that you get on my website, DeleteLawz.com. What is this? I'm so sorry. Let me just check it here. Card number 12. Card number 12 right here. It's Article 1, Section 3, Clause 6. Card number 12 is Article 1, Section 3, Clause 6. And here's what it says. The House impeaches a president or federal official. The Senate holds the trial. Senators act like a jury, and they can remove someone from office if at least 2/3 of the senators agree. If it's the president, the chief justice of the if it is the president, the chief justice of the Supreme Court runs the trial. Let me tell you something. This is flawed. We cannot have this. This doesn't work. Throughout the history of our country, from 1789 all the way to 2026, no president or Supreme Court justice has ever been successfully impeached. And the reason why is because in Article 1, Section 3, Clause 6, it says specifically, if the House impeaches a president, then the Senate holds the trial. That doesn't work. That does not work. It has never worked. This has got to be changed. This has got to be changed. In the new Constitution that we will come up with here, this has got to change. The Senate should not hold the trial. The Senate is the most elite people of each state, and they will never hold a Supreme Court justice or a president responsible for the actions that they do. The only time this could have ever been successful was when Chase, Supreme Court Justice from, I believe it was 1790 to 1811, 1789 to 1811, Chase was impeached, a United States Supreme Court Justice. It failed the impeachment process by one vote. By one vote, okay? Hey, moderators, feel free to kick these fuckers right out of here. I don't, moderators, if you would do me a favor, kick these guys right out. I got to stay focused, and I can't get distracted by these losers. So, this doesn't work. Article 1, Section 3, Clause 6 does not work. It's broken. It has to be fixed. If you don't know the Constitution, then you don't know what needs to be fixed. The House has the sole power of impeachment. The Senate has the sole right to try the impeached. And it doesn't work. The Senate has never successfully impeached a Supreme Court justice or a president. And right now we have a president that needs to be impeached and removed from office. Absolutely has to be removed. So that's card number 12 on your article cards that you get on DeleteLawz.com. Remember, if there's any errors on the cards, I will replace your cards after we fix the error. Card number 13, Article 1, Section 3, Clause 7. Card number 13, Article 1, Section 3, Clause 7. Here's exactly what it says. If the Senate convicts someone in an impeachment trial, well, that's never happened. That's never happened. Not one time through the history of our country has a president or a Supreme Court justice been successfully impeached through the Senate. So this is the caveat if they are impeached, which they never, ever are successfully impeached. This has to change in the new Constitution. And here's what it says. If the Senate convicts someone in an impeachment trial, the only punishment is removal from office and possibly banning them from future office. So in other words, the fact that this dumpster fire piece of shit PDF file in our office has scammed and cheated and literally grifted billions of dollars by insider trading, literally cheated people by creating a Trump coin and pulled the rug and made over $1 billion doing it, ripping off all of his supporters, which is incredible to me that he still has support. This says here that if the Senate convicts dumpster fire and he gets successfully impeached, that the only punishment is removal from office. This doesn't work for me. This doesn't work for us. This is not the rule of law. This is not the rule of law. This is not the rule of law. Article 1, Section 3, Clause 7 says that if the Senate successfully impeaches a president or a Supreme Court justice, that the only punishment is removal from office and possibly banning them from future office. They can still be charged in regular courts for crimes they committed. No, it has to be that if you're impeached and you're found guilty, that you have to be, it's a criminal trial. This is dog shit. This is broken. 250 years later, we can see that this does not work. This doesn't work. Now we're on card number 14. This is card number 14 on your articles cards that you can get on my website, Delete Lawz. You need to learn the 7 articles of the Constitution. Article 1, Section 4, Clause 1. So now we've done Section 1, 2, and 3. Now we're in Section 4 of Article 1. There's only 10 sections. This says, States decide when, where, and how they hold elections for Congress. Let me read it to you again because this is very relevant in today's media. States determine how, when, and where they hold elections for Congress. The president doesn't have any right to chime in on what the states are doing, okay? But Congress has the power to change or set rules for federal elections if needed. This helps balance the state control with national standards if necessary. And this is going to go into Article 4, Section 4, which talks about the guaranteed clause, that we will all have a guaranteed Republican form of government. Republican meaning a representative form of government. Thanks for the super chats. I have not seen them. Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay. So let me read this to you again so that you guys understand it, because this is relevant in today's news right now. The states will determine how, when, and where they have elections. It's not up to the federal government, and the federal government cannot get your voting rolls. It's right there. Article 1, Section 4, Clause 1, that the states determine how, when, and where they have elections. Now, Congress can determine federal elections and set rules for federal elections, but they cannot intervene in state elections. They don't get to decide how, when, and where states have elections, and they don't get to determine who's on the voting rolls, and they don't get to see the voting rolls. That's a states' rights issue, and that's going to go into the 10th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, which we will cover in one of these next few videos, okay? Now, we're at card number 15. We're at card number 15 in the articles. These cards are available on my website, DeleteLawz.com. They cost $10. They go on your phone. Learn them. Okay, so then it says right here, this is Article 1, Section 4, Clause number 2. Article 1, Section 4, Clause 2. Congress must meet at least once a year to make sure the government keeps working. This was later updated by the 20th Amendment, setting the first meeting date on January 3rd. It used to be in March. As you know, George Washington was seated as president March 4th, 1789, I believe. They changed that with the 20th Amendment, that the Congress and the president, all Congress, senators, members of the House of Representatives, and the president will convene on January 3rd. And that was by the 20th Amendment. I believe that's in 1919. 1919 or 1920 is the 20th Amendment. I'm 99% sure. Okay? So Article 1, Section 4, Clause 3 says that the House, the Senate, and the president will meet at least once a year to make sure the government is working. It used to be sometime in March. I believe it was March 4th. Now it's January 3rd. That's why every single year, January 3rd is a gigantic day in America, because that's when our House of Representatives, the newly elected members of the House, and any newly elected senators will go to Capitol Hill, and they'll all get together. Okay, do you understand that? Hey, Steve, they're as low as I can make them, buddy. Good luck, dude. What can I tell you? That's card number 15. That's card number 15. Card number 16. Want to make sure you guys can get the volume over here on Instagram as well. Card number 16. Card number 16 of the first article of the U.S. Constitution. Article 1, Section 5. So now we've done Section 1, 2, 3, and 4 of Article 1. Now we're in Section 5 of the 7 articles of the U.S. Constitution in Article 1. Okay? And here's what it says. The House and the Senate each have the power to decide if their members were properly elected and if they meet the qualifications. And what are the qualifications? We learned that earlier. Age, citizenship, and residency. So let me explain it to you again. Article 1, Section 5, Clause 1 says that the House and the Senate will have the power to decide if their members were properly elected. So, in other words, if you live in Alaska and you elect a senator or a member of the House of Representatives, and then when they all convene on January 3rd, the members of the House and the Senate can take a look at how you got elected in the state of Alaska and decide if you met the age requirement, the citizenship requirement, or the residency requirement. They can also refuse to seat someone if they believe that the age, citizenship and residency requirements were not met. That's Article 1, Section 5, Clause 1. Clearly states that members of the House and the Senate can determine if one of their members was elected fairly based on age, citizenship, and residency of that state. Put it in the chat. Put it in the chat, okay? You have to learn this. I sell them for $10. It goes on your phone. They're flashcards. You learn them. Here's the front of it. Flip it over. There's the back of it. There's the front of it. There's the back of it. Learn the 7 articles of the U.S. Constitution. Moving right along. Now we're on card number 17. There are only 86 cards. We are literally 1/4 of the way through almost, okay? Card number 17. Card number 17 of the articles of the U.S. Constitution, which there are 7. We are in Article 1, Section 5, Clause 2. And here's what it says. The House and the Senate make their own rules for how they work. They can discipline members who break those rules and even expel a member if 2/3 of the members of the House or 2/3 of the member of the Senate vote to expel a member. So in other words, if you get elected to the House of Representatives or you get elected to the United States Senate and you violate the rules, because it says here, the House and the Senate make their own rules for how they work. So in other words, you guys saw that piece of shit, John Fetterman, going to meetings with other members of the Senate, and he's wearing a hoodie and sweats. Well, guess what the senators did? The senators got together and made a rule that when you show up to the Senate floor, you have to be wearing a tie. So then that piece of shit Fetterman then put a tie around his hoodie. What a scumbag. What an absolute scumbag. But here's what it says again. Article 1, Section 5, Clause 2. That the House and the Senate make their own rules. That means the Senate can make rules for their House, and the House can make rules for their House. They can discipline members who break those rules and even expel a member if 2/3 of the House vote to expel the member of the House or 2/3 of the Senate vote to expel that member of the Senate. There it is. Article 1, Section 5, Clause 2 allows them to create their own rules and to expel members if they don't follow the rules. You have to know this stuff. This one, fine. I'm okay with this moving forward. But in the new Constitution, we've already seen a couple things that have to be changed. Moving on. We're at card number 18. You see where it says card number 18 right there? Card number 18. Don't worry, I'll flip this, okay, when I edit this. Article 1, Section 5, Clause 3. Article 1, Section 5, Clause 3. Please repeat it out loud. Both the House and the Senate have to keep records of what they do and publish most of it so the public can see it. Publish most of it. Each House shall keep a journal of its proceedings. They can withhold secret parts if necessary, usually for national security reasons. Well, let me tell you something. That is absolutely, because for decades now, apparently, our government has been in complete alignment with a foreign government. And you know which foreign government that is. It's our bestest friends who live east of the middle. They are involved in our government, and it's been a secret to us. Because otherwise, you wouldn't have these things where they want to merge our military with the foreign government. And the reason why that's happening is because they've kept it a fucking secret. That's the reason why. What allows the House and the Senate to keep secrets from us? Article 1, Section 5, Clause 3 allows the House and the Senate to keep secrets from the citizens. This shit has to be amended in the new Constitution. It has to be amended. So let me read it again. The House and the Senate have to keep records of what they do mostly. They are allowed to keep secrets if it's for national security. And so now they've screwed us. They've been merging our military and our policies with a foreign government that are our best friends east of the middle. And the reason why they could do it is because of Article 1, Section 5, Clause 3. This has to be changed. This has to be changed. Chuck Bronson, you need to call me, man. I've sent you a few text messages. You're as bad at communication as I am, brother. Okay. Now, we're at card number 19. Card number 19. There's only 86 cards. We're legitimately up to almost 20% of all the cards, okay? Card number 19 is Article 1, Section 5, Clause 4. Article 1, Section 5, Clause 4. Chuck, Chuck, let's get to work, dude. Let's get to work. I figured out a workaround. Okay. Here it is. And let me read it to you guys so you understand it. These cards are available on my website. They're $10. It took me a year to build these. And some of them are wrong. I have to fix them. I don't want to get off on a tangent, but let me just tell you, Team DLZ. I've been saying for years I'm a constitutional law scholar. I wasn't a constitutional law scholar till this year. I've known some things, but I've made some mistakes. But now I'm a constitutional law scholar. Now I know this shit inside and out because I wrote each and every one of these cards. Let me teach it to you. Article 1, Section 5, Clause 4 states this: the House and the Senate must agree if either one wants to take a break longer than 3 days. This keeps one chamber from shutting down Congress on its own. The actual text of Article 1, Section 5, Clause 4 says, neither House during the session of Congress shall, without the consent of the other, adjourn for more than 3 days. Now, do they get together and adjourn for more than 3 days? You bet your ass they do. You bet your ass they do. 100% they do. Now, can this go forward in the new Constitution? I think it could, because we're going to need a new Constitution after the revolution. There's a revolution coming. There's a revolution coming. Moving right along, we're now on card number 20 of 86 cards that you learn the entire U.S. Constitution on one video stream. If you can't read the card, don't worry about it. I'm going to edit this and flip it horizontally so you can read it. But let me read card number 20. Card number 20 for the 7 articles of the Constitution, Article 1, Section 6, Clause 1. So we've done Article 1, Section 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now we're at Article 1, Section 6, Clause 1. And here's what it says. If the House impeaches a president or federal official, which has happened several times throughout our country, Bill Clinton was impeached, Donald Trump was impeached, Supreme Court Justice Chase was impeached, Richard Nixon would have been impeached. I don't know if impeachment proceedings began after he cheated. If the House impeaches a president or federal official, the Senate holds the trial. This has to be changed. This is bullshit. This hasn't worked. Not a single federal official or president has ever been successfully impeached. This is bullshit, and this has to change. We cannot have U.S. senators holding trial for presidents and Supreme Court justices or federal judges that are appointed for life. This shit has to change. I'm going to read it to you again so we know what has to change. If the House impeaches a president or federal official, the Senate holds the trial. Senators act like a jury, and they can remove someone from office if at least 2/3 of the senators agree. If it's the president, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court runs the trial. And who appointed that person? And hasn't John Roberts shown us that they can spray glyphosate on our food and we can't hold Roundup accountable? The bullshit Supreme Court, we're going to get into that in Article 3. We're in Article 1. The bullshit Supreme Court has to be changed. Because this says that if the president is being impeached, that the Chief Justice of the United States will hold the trial. Well, John Roberts is a shill, a total fraud. A complete and total fraud. Works for the federal government because he's appointed for life. Hardcore right-winger. I would even venture out to say he's a piece of shit. Sorry, Roberts, you're a piece of shit. That piece of shit, Roberts, just voted that glyphosate, that they're spraying on all of our food, that we can't sue the company Roundup for poisoning our food. As a matter of fact, the whole entire administration is dog shit. Robert Kennedy Jr., Make America Healthy Again. Trump just signed an executive order saying that they can spray glyphosate on all of our fruits and vegetables. They're trying to kill us all. Do you not understand that? I am not suicidal. They are trying to kill us all. Do you understand that? Put a 1 in the chat if you understand what I'm telling you. Article 1, Section 6, Clause 1 says that if the House impeaches somebody, that the Senate holds the trial. That shit has to change. That shit has got to change. It doesn't work. 250 years later, we see this shit doesn't work. Time to change it. Card number 21. Card number 21. Article 1, Section 6, Clause number 2. Card number 21, Article 1, Section 6, Clause 2. Says right here, members of Congress can't take jobs in the executive or judicial branches if those jobs were created or had a pay raise during their time in office. Okay, let me break it down for you so you guys understand, okay? This is so vanilla that you can't really understand what they're saying, okay? Members of Congress, let me read the actual text of it because I can break that down and destroy it a lot easier than the layman's terms. No senator or representative shall, during the time for which he was elected, be appointed to any civil office. And the reason is because they can be bought off. Members of Congress can't take jobs in the executive or judicial branches. Remember, Article 1 is the legislative branch of government. Article 2 is the executive branch of government. Article 3 is the judicial branch of government. Article 1, Section 6, Clause 2 says that no member of the House in Article 1 can take a job in the executive branch or the judicial branch that would include pay. Because if they do, they become corrupted. No one can create a job and then take it for themselves. Do you understand that? So this is a good thing, but it's not working. This has to be broadened big time, because the idea that a member of the House of Representatives isn't being bribed or paid off, well, that goes more into corporations, which is going to be the 2010 case of Citizens United versus the Federal Election Commission. So if you didn't understand what 2010 Citizens United versus the Federal Election Commission, Citizens United was a group of billionaires and corporations that got together and funded a Supreme Court case where it went in front of that piece of shit, John Roberts, and they said, you can put any amount of money you want in elections. How's that working out? Do our best friends east of the middle own our elections? Yes, they do. With the $3.8 billion that we give to our best friends east of the middle? Yes, they do. Because they can now buy our elections. They take the money that we give to them and they invest it into our politicians so that our politicians do the bidding for a foreign fucking government. Do you understand that? This doesn't work. It's a nice idea, Article 1, Section 6, Clause 2, but it doesn't work. Am I clear on that? I hope I'm being clear. No, Eddie. Thanks for coming, Surf Man. But listen, that's the process that we have to change. Eddie, there's a revolution coming. It's going to be bloody. There's a bloody revolution coming. If you guys are unaware, you better wake up. Card 22. Article 1, Section 7, Clause 1. That means we've done Article 1, Section 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We're now at Article 7. Article 1, Section 7. We're at Section 7 now, okay? Now, you need to learn this because after we go to a bloody revolution, which is coming, we then have to omit and parts of this Constitution that are up, okay? You understand that? That's why I'm sitting here teaching it to you. Surfman Eddie, we have to change this bullshit that doesn't work for the people and only works for the elites. Wait till I get to Article 6. You guys are going to shit your pants with what our founding fathers did to us. They fucked us big time. All the people got screwed by the founding fathers. Are they patriots? Absolutely. Did they help found this country? Absolutely. Was it done on some bullshit? It absolutely was. Don't piss on me and tell me it's tropical rain. I know what bullshit is. Back to card number 22. We are officially 25% through all 7 articles of the U.S. Constitution. We're a quarter of the way there, and we're only 45 minutes in. That means this entire Constitution will be taught in less than 3 hours. That's how long it took you to learn the Constitution. Article 1, Section 7, Clause number 1. All tax bills must start in the House of Representatives, but the Senate can propose changes or amendments. This gives the chamber closest to the people control over taxation. How are those taxes going? Put a 1 in the chat if you're getting taxed out your fucking ass. Put a 1 in the chat if you're getting taxed out your ass. Put a 1 in the chat if you are getting taxed like crazy and you're sick of it. Well, let me explain to you where it comes from. If you want to know where taxes come from, Article 1, Section 7, Clause 1. And what does it say? All tax bills start in the House of Representatives. And then after it passes in the House, they vote on it, then they pass it to the Senate. The Senate can propose changes or amend that tax bill. This gives the chamber, the people who are close, the House of Representatives, the initial surge of creating a new tax. Put a 1 in the chat if you don't want a new tax. Put a 1 in the chat if you do not want a new tax. I don't want any new taxes. New taxes. We are now more than 25% through the United States Constitution. Do you understand that? If you watch this back and you repeat everything I just said, you're going to be 25% through. Card number, is that 20? Here's 23. Card number 23 of 86 cards. You see right there? It says card number 23 of 86 cards. Don't worry if it's backwards. I'm going to edit this and you'll be able to see it. So whoever came in here and talked shit, there's still 24,000 people on YouTube. Obviously that's fake. Obviously there's not 24,000 people. It's ridiculous. Article 1, Section 7, Clause 2. For a bill to become law, it must pass both houses of Congress and be signed by the president. If the president vetoes it, Congress can still pass it with 2/3 vote in both houses, overriding the president's veto. This balances power between the branches. So, Article 1, Section 7, Clause 3 says that if a law is passed by both the House and the Senate, and it goes to the president's desk, and he decides to veto that bill, that Congress can override that veto by having 2/3 of the members of the House and 2/3 members of the Senate vote to override the veto. And where did we see this happen? Where was this the most prominent? During Abraham Lincoln's agenda. Abraham Lincoln, he actually suspended habeas corpus, and then after Lincoln was dead, it was overruled that he could not suspend habeas corpus. Habeas corpus is when you've been put in prison unlawfully and you can be released from that prison by filing a writ of habeas corpus. Remember that there are 3 big writs. Your first petition, then your writ of mandamus, and then a writ of habeas corpus. So there's 3 big writs, and you have to know these 3 big writs. I'll go more into writs later, but right now, let's just get through the U.S. Constitution as it is written now and understand that some things have to change. This one is fine. This one, Article 1, Section 7, Clause 2, that says 2/3 of the House and 2/3 of the Senate can override a veto. You know what this has to be added to this? A pardon. That 2/3 of the House and 2/3 of the Senate can override a pardon. Because we're seeing that the pardon power is being used by every Democrat and Republican to enrich themselves by taking money for pardons, by setting up businesses where the people that they pardon dump money into their business. None more recent than dumpster fire Trump, who got $2 billion from a company called Binance when he pardoned a fucking criminal. Do you understand that? And also, that piece of shit Trump also pardoned a narco-terrorist who dumped hundreds of millions of pounds of drugs into our country. This needs to be expanded, Article 1, Section 7, Clause 2, that we can also override pardons with 2/3 members of the House and 2/3 members of the Senate. So this has to be expanded in the new Constitution. Do we understand that? Does everybody understand that? Okay. We're at card number 24. We're at card number 24. We are now over 25% of learning the U.S. Constitution. Are you ready? Hit that like button over there on YouTube. You guys put your comments here on Instagram. What are you talking? Jaime, you don't know this? You don't know this? Can someone on Instagram clue him in as to who Trump pardoned? And literally the guy was a narco. The term narco-terrorist I don't agree with. But he pardoned a guy that brought in hundreds of tons of drugs into our country. It's a fact, dude. Honduran ex-president. That's exactly correct. Thank you. Now, we're on card number 24. Card number 24 of 86 cards to learn all 7 articles of the U.S. Constitution. Article 1, Section 7, Clause 2. Article 1, Section 7, Clause 2. This clause says that important actions needing both the House and the Senate's approval, not just laws, but major resolution or orders, also have to be presented to the president for approval or for veto. This keeps the president involved in all major decisions. So let me read the actual text of this. Every order, resolution, or vote to which the concurrence of the Senate and House of Representatives may be necessary. That's what it says. That's the actual text. This clause says that important actions needing both House and Senate approval, not just laws, but major resolutions or orders, also have to be presented to the president for approval or for veto, which I think this is fine. I think it's fine. I think keeping the president in the loop is a good thing when we don't have such corrupt presidents in our office. Article 1, Section 7, Clause 2 says that any major orders or resolutions have to pass both the House and the Senate, but they also have to be approved by the President of the United States, which when we don't have a corrupt president, this is actually a good thing. Card number 25 of 86 cards. Card number 25 of the 86 cards to learn all 7 articles of the U.S. Constitution. We are still in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1. That means we've learned Article 1, Section 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And now we're at Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1. Are you excited? What the fluck? Are you kidding me? We are almost done with Article 1. There's only 10 sections of Article 1. Congress has the power to tax, to pay debts, fund defense, and promote general welfare. All taxes must apply evenly across the states, preventing unfair regional taxes. This gives Congress its main source of funding. Now, we're going to get into Article 1, Section 9. Let me wait till we get there, because I'm going to jump ahead. I don't mean to. Okay. Let me read it again so you guys understand what this says. And pay very close attention, because this one right here affects your pocketbook in a big way. So pay very close attention. Congress has the power to tax, to pay debts, fund defense, and promote general welfare. The United States Congress has the power to tax you. The reason why we broke away from England, the reason why we had a revolutionary war, is because they put a 3% fucking tax on tea. You understand that? The Boston Tea Party, you've heard of that, right? They put a 3% tax on tea. Oh no, Mike, they're all shit. All the way back to JFK, the presidents have been shit. But this particular president, rapist, piece of shit, pedophile, I've never seen any president who's a pedophile that we know is a pedophile. Joe Biden sniffed kids, but he wasn't going to Epstein Island and raping kids like Dumpster Fire was. So please, dude, don't piss on me and tell me it's tropical rain. Okay? Bro, you're no patriot, dude. Thanks for coming to the channel. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1 gives the power of Congress to tax us, to pay debts, fund defense, and promote general welfare. All taxes must apply evenly across all states. So how's this going to get fucked up? This is going to get fucked up with the 16th Amendment, and I'm going to get into that next. We are now at card number 26 of 86 cards, meaning there's only 60 cards left, and you will know the entire U.S. Constitution. Are you fucking kidding me? Did you know that on a Saturday in July, you would learn the entire U.S. Constitution? Did you have any idea that would happen? Are you fucking kidding me? Okay. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 2. Congress can borrow money to fund the government. This includes selling bonds or taking loans to pay for wars, emergencies, or regular spending when taxes aren't enough. Congress can borrow money to fund the government. Who are they borrowing money from? Well, let me give you the clue. They were borrowing money from the British nobles, is what they were doing. This is how our founding fathers absolutely fucked us over. If you don't know, I'm going to teach it, so pay very close attention. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 2, that Congress has the power to borrow money. Okay. How does this break down during colonial times? Well, if Congress has the ability to borrow money, who are they going to borrow money from? From England. Who do they borrow money from specifically in England? British nobles, lords, kings, princes. So once they borrow the money and the Brits buy our American bonds, then essentially the Brits have the power to go to our president and members of our Congress and say, hey, we bought all those bonds. We want you to do this. This right here gives foreign governments the power to control us. This has to be limited in the new Constitution. This cannot stand as written. Cannot. Congress has the power to borrow money by selling bonds and taking loans to pay for wars, emergencies, or regular spending when taxes aren't enough. When taxes aren't enough, what the fuck are you talking about? Taxes aren't enough. All the Fed has to do is push a couple buttons and they got all the money they want. Don't sit here and bullshit me. This is a way to give elites power over our elected officials is what this is. If you don't know, you learn today on Saturday in July. We are at card number 27. The article cards are on my website, DeleteLawz.com. They're $10. You put them on your phone, you learn them. If there's any errors, show me the error. I'll fix the card and replace your cards for free. It's a digital download that you put on your phone. Here it is. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3. Wait till we get to Article 1, Section 9. That's where it really gets fun. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3. Known as the Commerce Clause, this gives Congress the power to set rules for trade between states with other countries and with Native American tribes. This power has been expanded through case law to cover many parts of the economy. Okay, so the Commerce Clause was originally supposed to be, let me explain this to you so you guys understand it. Let me break it down for you. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3 is the Commerce Clause. And what this says specifically, thank you guys, I appreciate you mods, appreciate you. What this says specifically is that the Commerce Clause gives Congress the power to set rules for trade between states. Because if you didn't know, back during colonial times when there was just 13 states, what happened was between New York and Massachusetts, Massachusetts would put a tariff on the products coming in from Massachusetts. And New York would put a tariff on any products coming in from Carolina. And Georgia would put a tariff on any products coming in from New York. So the original idea of this was so that states wouldn't put tariffs on each other, so then we have 13 different countries instead of one nation under God, indivisible, right? So the founding fathers put this into our Constitution so that states couldn't put tariffs on each other and really create factious wars between the states. Now, how has this been abused? Because in the 1943 case of Wicker versus Filburn, they then said that using the Commerce Clause, that you couldn't grow wheat on your own land, which meant that you didn't have any freedom. So if you had so let me explain Wicker versus Filburn a little bit without getting too far off track here, okay? In Wicker versus Filburn, the United States government used Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3, and used the Commerce Clause to make sure that Filburn couldn't grow wheat on his own property. Because he didn't want, the government wanted to control everybody and everything. So how does this go out of hand? This exact Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3, in the 2005 case of Gonzalez versus Reich. 2005 case of Gonzalez versus Reich was about homegrown marijuana, where a group of cancer patients in California had created their own co-op farm where they were growing homegrown marijuana in 2005. The government, using the Commerce Clause from Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3, then said you can't grow homegrown marijuana because it affects interstate commerce. The problem with that holding from the unelected Supreme Court, who fuck us every time, is that marijuana wasn't legal federally in 2005, and it's still not legal. Do you understand that? I mean, am I making it clear to you guys? The Commerce Clause has got to be changed. So when we get a new constitution after the revolution, which is certainly coming, there's a revolution coming, you guys better get ready. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3 has got to be amended, We cannot just give Congress the power to use the Commerce Clause for any industry they want to control. And that's what this has done. That's what this has done. This has made it so that Congress can control any industry that they want, and it's got to change. We're on card, this is card 27 of 86 cards. We're now at card number 28. 28, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4 is card number 28 of 86 cards. Congress makes the rules for immigration, how people become citizens, and bankruptcy laws, how people or businesses deal with debts they can't pay. These laws must be the same across all states. What Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4 does is it establishes a uniform rule of naturalization. So if you're from Canada and you want to become a U.S. citizen, the uniform rules of naturalization would count for a Peru resident that wants to become an American citizen, or a Russian resident, or a South African resident. So what this does, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4, it says that the rules to become a naturalized American citizen have to be uniform, and uniform laws on the subject of bankruptcy through the United States. Who did this favor in 1788? Who did this favor? This favored the elites. This favored the elites. And why did it favor them? Because it didn't matter if they were in New York or Massachusetts or Georgia or wherever they were. There was a uniform code of bankruptcy laws. And what happened in the very beginning? James Wilson, one of our founding fathers, one of the 5 members of the Committee of Detail, a land speculator who had screwed over everybody. He now had a uniform set of bankruptcy laws. If you understand it, if you follow enough and you learn enough, you'll understand what I'm talking about. This is card number 28. What is card 28? Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4 establishes a uniform rule of naturalization and uniform laws regarding bankruptcy throughout the United States. Card number 29. Card number 29. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 5. And I think there's 10 clauses in Section 8, so stay with me here. Congress controls the creation of money. This has been completely bastardized in 1913 with the Federal Reserve Act, just so you know. This is a nothing burger. This is no longer valid. But let me read it to you, what it says in the original Constitution before the Federal Reserve Act of 1913, which was written by I don't know if it was written by William Howard Taft, but pushed through by William Howard Taft, along with the 16th Amendment that William Howard Taft drafted, that created a federal income tax, passed by the 16th Amendment in 1913. I don't mean to get too off the wall here. Congress, to coin money, regulate the value thereof and of foreign coin, and to fix the standard of weights and measures. That's the original text. Let me read the breakdown of it. Congress controls the creation of money, its value, and the exchange rates for foreign money. Congress also sets standards for things like inches, pounds, gallons. You know how we use a standardized system here and the rest of the world uses a metric system? That's because we wanted to be different. We had to be different. We couldn't use the metric system that the rest of the world uses. Congress had to decide, oh, no, we're going to use a standardized system instead of the metric system, which has completely and utterly does. Thank you, Terry Marine, bad motherfucker. I appreciate that. This is a nothing burger. It doesn't exist anymore. This no longer is valid. Do you understand that? In the new Constitution after the Revolution, we have to abolish the Fed so that the money in your bank account doesn't get burned up through inflation. Let me explain it a little bit to you guys so you understand. So Article 1, Section 8, Clause 5 is supposed to say that Congress controls the creation of money, its value, and its exchange rates. That changed in 1913 with the Federal Reserve Act. And now the Fed determines, so say that you have $100 in your bank account, got $100, and you're saving that $100. Well, the Federal Reserve then goes and loans $40 billion to Argentina. So as you know, if you can only get my cards in one place on one website, then the value of my cards is very high. But if you can get my cards on any website anywhere, then the value of my cards plummets, right? Same thing here. The Federal Reserve Act of 1913 made it so that there would be an independent corporation that would determine the value of the money in your bank account. So if you save $100 and then the Federal Reserve loans out or gives away $40 billion to Argentina, then the $100 in your bank account is worth much, much less because there's $40 billion out into the world. And that's just Argentina. And so what does the Federal Reserve do? The Federal Reserve will go to Ghana or Zimbabwe or to Canada, to any country, and they'll say, hey, we're going to loan you some money. We're going to help you build up your system. But they give the money to Canada based on that they're going to charge interest. So they loan $1 billion to Canada and say, hey, but I'm going to charge 18% interest on your money. Well, Canada says we need the money, so we'll take it. But now the $100 in your bank account is worth 1 billion times less. This is bullshit. The Federal Reserve has to be abolished. American currency has to be left up to Americans, not a multinational corporation that makes money by loaning out or giving money to foreign nations. This has got to be changed. Do you guys understand that? You understand that? I want to make sure everybody understands that this is fucked. I just want everybody to know that, okay? Card number 30. We're at card number 30 of 86 cards learning the 7 articles of the U.S. Constitution. Don't worry, I'll rip this video. If you can't read the card, I will make sure that it's flipped horizontally. I'll put every card on my video here. If you want to buy the cards, they're $10 on my website. You put them on your phone and you sit and learn them. If there's any errors, please alert me to the errors. I'll fix the entire deck and resend it out to everybody. Okay? I'm not perfect, but I do know a lot of information that I want to share with you that's important that you learn it. Okay? Article 1, Section 8, Clause 6 is card number 30. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 6 is card number 30. All tax bills must start in the House of Representatives. We learned that earlier. But the Senate can propose changes or amendments. This gives the chamber closest to the people control over taxation. All bills for raising revenue shall originate in the House of Representatives. So this is saying that the House will create all bills. Okay? Card number 31. Card 31, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 7. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 7. Congress has the power to create and regulate post offices and the roads used to carry mail. This was critical for communications across the states in early America and is the basis for the U.S. Postal Service today. So now you learned something. You learned that Article 1, Section 8, Clause 7 essentially creates the United States Post Office so that it can be the juggernaut of a system that it is. And so when you hear about people saying, hey, let's privatize the postal system, let's not. Let's absolutely not. The U.S. postal system is supposed to be a service for the people. We pay taxes for the U.S. postal system so that it works for the people, so that UPS and FedEx can't gouge us. You've already seen what the privatization of corporations has done to multiple different industries. How's that car industry going? It's only a matter of time before the government, through legislation, takes over the means of production, which is communism. And so what exactly is communism? When the government controls the means of production. And we're seeing that in the bill that tells car makers that they're going to put cameras in our cars. Did you know that? Every 2027 car is going to have cameras in it for the government to spy on you. literally America becoming a communist country. And I'm not talking about democratic socialism. That's a lot different than communism. Communism is where the government controls the means of production. So this one right here, Congress has the power to create and regulate the post office. We pay taxes so that we have a U.S. post office that works for the people. If the billionaire Epstein class tries to privatize the postal system, then they're going to screw us all. You understand that, right? Okay. I've seen a couple errors in the cards. I've seen a couple errors. So there are a couple errors, but we're going to fix it and I'll redistribute. Now, you didn't see the errors, but I saw them because I know what the Constitution says. Okay. Yeah, I don't. So people on YouTube right now, it says 24,000 people watching. I don't know why that says that. I have no idea. But I guarantee you there's not 24,000 people watching on ScrewTube. Okay, so now we're going to keep going. We're at card number 32 of 86 cards. We're at card number 32 of 86 cards to learn the 7 articles of the U.S. Constitution. This is the Patent and Copyright Clause, giving Congress the power to protect inventions, creative work, and intellectual property by granting exclusive rights for limited periods. This encourages innovation and creativity. Okay, let me explain something to you that you understand. And I'm going to put it to you in terms so that you'll get it. This is fucked. This is totally fucked. And why is this fucked? How come? Why am I saying that? Why am I saying that this is the Patent and Copyright Clause giving Congress the power to protect inventions? Because there's a video circulating that says, why do we have to pay to live? Why do you have to pay to be able to eat food and live on land? Because of this right here, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8. When the U.S. government gave private corporations the power to patent seeds, this was the beginning of the end. This is a perfectly fair article, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8. I understand that there has to be a copyright and patent office for the United States of America. I get that. When the United States government said that Monsanto can patent the genetic pattern for seeds, it was the beginning of the end of civilization. After the revolution, we will take away the patent rights for plants and for animals. You don't get to have a patent on seeds. Fuck you. Fuck you, Monsanto. You don't get to decide that you own life. And that's what this does. It's a blank check. That's what this is. This makes it so that private corporations can patent seeds. And then, if the winds blow and the corn from one crop ends up on your crop, and then they test it and they say, oh, we patented that seed. Now you got to pay us. This is Monsanto in a nutshell. This has got to be changed. Let me read it to you how it should say. This is the Patent and Copyright Clause giving Congress the power to protect inventions, creative work, and intellectual property rights by granting exclusive rights for limited periods except for life. You cannot patent seeds. You cannot patent the human genome. You cannot patent DNA, and you cannot patent seeds. This one right here allows Monsanto to live and to exist. Do you understand that? This has got to be changed. And let me say it again. Fuck you, Monsanto. You don't get to decide that you own that seed. And I'm not a farmer, but there's dozens and dozens of seed companies that own the patents to those seeds. And if the wind blows and the seed ends up on your farm, then you have to pay that private corporation that has patented life. This has got to be amended. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8, that yes, you are allowed to patent inventions. You are allowed to copyright things, but you are not allowed to patent life. And that's what has to be changed. Okay? Do we understand that? Put it in the chat. Fuck Monsanto. You don't get to patent life. This is the beginning of the end right here. Card number 32. Card number 32 of 86 to learn every single article of the U.S. Constitution. There are 7 articles of the U.S. Constitution. This is Article 1, Section 8, Clause 9. Congress can create federal courts below the Supreme Court, such as district courts and courts of appeals, to handle cases involving federal law. I'm okay with this, that Congress can create courts. What I'm not okay with, and we'll get into this in Article 3, is lifetime appointment for courts, and people don't have to run on a platform of how they're going to preserve and uphold our civil liberties. We have a bunch of black-robed tyrants that have allowed private corporations to patent seeds. That went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, yep, you can patent that seed. So what Article 1, Section 8, Clause 9 does is it allows Congress to set up courts below the Supreme Court, like district courts, circuit courts, and courts of appeals. Which circuit courts, by the way, were already created at the very beginning of our Constitution, and we'll get more into that later in Article 3, which is the judicial branch of the 7 articles. Card number 34 of 86 cards, and you will learn all 7 articles of the U.S. Constitution. Card 34. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 10. Was there 11? Yeah, there's like 18 or 19. There's 18 or 19 sections of Article 1, Section 8. There's 18 or 19 clauses. So this is a huge section. So, and remember, what's in this section is the idea that private corporations can patent life. That has to be amended in the new Constitution after the revolution. A revolution is coming. That's why I'm standing here teaching this to you. Instead of selling my products, I'm sitting here teaching you so that you know what our rights are. And you have to learn this. Card number 34, card 34 of 86. Congress sets laws for crimes on the ocean like piracy and international law violations, like acts that break treaties or harm other nations. This gives federal power over international crimes. Let me read the actual text of Article 1, Section 8, Clause 10. Let me read the actual. To define and punish piracy and felonies committed on the high seas and offenses against the law of nations. This has to be amended. This has to be amended in the new Constitution. And what am I talking about specifically? That the U.S. government, no matter where we are on any waterway, does not have jurisdiction over us. And that's what this does. This gives the federal government jurisdiction over you on any lake, river, or waterway anywhere in the world. Did you know that? So that's what this does specifically, and it has to be changed. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 10. Congress sets laws for crimes like piracy and international law violations. This gives federal power over international crimes. It also gives the federal government power to board your boat in a lake, power to board your boat in a river, and say that we have jurisdiction over you. Fuck you. You do not have jurisdiction over me because I'm on the water. You don't get to board my boat and see if I have enough life vests. Fuck you. Get out of my life. That's what this does. And of course they say Congress shall set laws for crimes on the ocean like piracy. Well, who's the pirate? You are. You're the pirate. The government only has to say, that you're a pirate. That's it. And you don't have to be a pirate at all whatsoever. The government can just say you're a pirate. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 10 gives them power over you. You think that's right? You think I go on a lake or a river and the government gets to board my boat and decide that what I'm doing is legal or illegal based on whether or not I have a life preserver? Card 35 of 86 cards. Card 35 of 86 cards to learn every single of the 7 articles of the U.S. Constitution. And I'll tell you the amendments that have to happen after the revolution. Understanding. To declare war, grant letters of marque and reprisal, and make rules concerning captures on land and water. So that's the actual text of the Constitution. Let me give you the breakdown in layman's terms. Only Congress can officially declare war. There it is right there. There it is right there. So how is Dumpster Fire attacking Iran right now? How's he doing that? It says here, only Congress can officially declare war. They can also authorize private ships to attack enemies during wartime, letters of marque, and make rules for capturing enemies or property during war. So this says that Congress has that sole power. So pop quiz to the audience. Then how the fuck is Trump bombing Iran, and how the fuck did Bush take us to war? Oh, Congress. Okay, so back then when George W. Bush was in office, Congress declared war. But after that, after George Bush invaded Iraq erroneously so that him and Tony Blair could enrich themselves through Halliburton, a total fucking scam, while thousands of our men and women died in that war so that Halliburton could become a billionaire corporation, only Congress has the right to declare war. Only Congress can order private ships to attack enemy ships during wartime. And only Congress can make power for capturing enemies or property during war. Then how come Pete Hegseth can say, we're just going to kill these people? How can he do that? How's that possible? Does anybody know the answer? Does anybody know the answer? Thank you. I appreciate that. God bless. We're at card number 36 of 86 cards. We have 50 cards to go, and you know the U.S. Constitution from top to bottom. Right here. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 12. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 12. Card number 36 of 86 cards. To raise and support armies, but no appropriation of money to that use shall be for a longer term than 2 years. So that's a little bit confusing, the original text. Let me break it down for you. Congress can create and fund armies, but they can only approve money for the army for up to 2 years at a time. So they have to reapprove military funding regularly. This was meant to prevent standing armies from becoming too powerful. So let me read it again. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 12. Congress can create and fund armies, but they can only approve money for 2 years at a time. So they have to reapprove military funding every 2 years, and this is to prevent standing armies that become too powerful. I think this should change to every 6 months. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 12 should be every 90 days or 180 days, Congress must approve funding for military action. That's the change that I'm going to propose after the revolution, because there's going to be thousands of people that die. I'm not joking. I wish I was kidding. Card number 37 of 86. Card number 37 of 86. Because there's a lot of rules that Congress has created that, so I don't want to get off track. I'll answer your question at the end. Come back to that. Why Section 8 so long? I'll explain it to you, but I don't want to go off track here. This is card number 37 of 86 cards, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 13. To provide and maintain a navy. If you guys don't know it, we didn't have 4 branches of government when this country was established in 1788. Ratified in 1789, right after the Constitutional Convention in 1787. We had one branch of military, and it was called the Navy. As a matter of fact, you'll now see the piece of shit Pete Hegseth, beta male cuck. He'll talk about being the Department of War. It's the Department of Defense, first of all, and secondly, it used to be only the Department of Navy. And I can give you a simple example of that. In 1903, after William Howard Taft stepped down from being governor of the Philippines because this is where Teddy Roosevelt got his war accolades. He became the Secretary of the Navy, which would today be called the Secretary of Defense, or Pete Hegseth and his beta male cuck called himself the Department of War. Pete Hegseth is going to be tried and he's going to be hung because he's a traitor and he's a war criminal. That's a fact. You don't get to kill people who are hanging on the side of boats. And if you do, you should be tried and you should be hung. I don't want to get too far off track. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 13 says, unlike the Army, which needs repeated funding approval, Congress has the power to maintain a permanent Navy, since naval forces were seen as critical to defense and trade. This has to be amended. That we have to have a military, but right now, so many millions and millions of people in America are struggling as we put $1.5 trillion into a military when we use it as a bully. We're not the good guys. You guys get that, right? I wish we were the good guys. We're not the good guys. We're the terrorists of the world. And the reason is Article 1, Section 8, Clause 13, that we have an endless supply of money for the Navy. It originally was seen as critical to defense and trade, but that's not the way it is anymore. Now we're just a gigantic bully. And you know that to be a fact because dumpster fire piece of shit that he is just a week ago floated the idea that we were going to charge a 20% tax for ships going through the Strait of Hormuz where we don't control it. That's not our strait. That's not off our land. We don't have any power over the Strait of Hormuz. But yet Trump said, I'm going to charge a 20% tariff, essentially, on every ship going through. It has to be amended. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 13 has got to be amended. Moving on, card number 38 of 86 cards so you learn the U.S. Constitution. These are available on my website. They're $10. If there's any errors, show me the error and I'll replace the card. Congress makes the rules and the laws that govern how the military operates, including discipline, conduct, and structure for both the Army and the Navy. The actual text of Article 1, Section 8, Clause 14, to make rules for the government and regulation of the land and the naval forces. Now, it used to just be naval forces. That's why in layman's terms, I put Navy and Army on this card. Congress makes the rules and laws that govern the military operates. So this isn't being enforced. Now, all that power is under the executive branch with the Department of Defense, with a beta male cuck named Pete Hegseth. Why is that? It says right here, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 14, it says plain as day right here, that Congress makes the rules and laws that govern how the military operates. So then how'd that get bastardized? The National Defense Authorization Act. That's how. An act passed by George W. Bush for our safety that now makes us all terrorists. This has got to be amended so that it says that Congress makes the rules and laws that govern how the military operates, including discipline, conduct, and structure for the Navy. That means that we, the people, Congress is changed over every 2 years. We learned that in Article 1, Section 1. That Congress is turned over every 2 years to give power to the people. Well, this says Congress makes the rules and laws for how the military operates and the discipline and the conduct. So then why in the world is the Department of Defense determining that they're going to give our troops testosterone and saying that look out on military bases, women? I can't believe that was even said. We're at card number 39, folks. Card number 39 of the 7 articles of the Constitution. There's only 86 total. We're at Article 1, Section 8, Clause 15. There's only 18 clauses, so we're almost done with Section 8. Congress can call up state militias, which later became the National Guard, to enforce federal laws, put down rebellions, and defend against attacks. This gives the federal government backup forces when needed. This has to be amended. You understand that? This has to be amended. And why is that? Because we have seen that our National Guard has been bastardized by the executive. That the executive, using Article 1, Section 8, Clause 15, the executive has taken control of the state National Guards. And often, the governor of that state, I don't know, like in Texas maybe, a piece of shit named Abbott, gave control of the Texas National Guard to dumpster fire. And what did he do? He sent those National Guardsmen to California. This has to be amended. That only state governors can control the National Guard. The executive can never control the National Guard, ever. Because we've seen what happens. It's been bastardized. The Constitution needs to be updated. And after the revolution, I'm giving you exactly how it needs to be altered. Congress shall call up state militias to enforce federal laws, put down rebellions, and defend against attacks. This gives the federal government backup forces when needed. The federal government, backup forces when needed. In my perspective, this has to be switched over to Article 4. Article 4 is the states and how they interact with each other. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 15 should be switched over to Article 4 of the U.S. Constitution, which we're going to cover today. There it is. Card 40. Just want to make sure. There's a couple errors on these cards. So even if you get the cards, I'm going to replace your whole deck because there's a couple numbering errors. There's a couple little errors here and there that I've caught because I'm a constitutional law scholar and I've seen errors in these, and I'm going to fix them. So bear with me, but you'll still be able to learn 98% of it. Card number 40. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 16. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 16. To promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writing and discoveries. So this is an extension of the Patent and Copyright Office that we learned earlier. This is the Patent and Copyright Clause, giving Congress the power to protect inventions, creative works, and intellectual property by granting exclusive rights for a limited amount of periods. This encourages innovation and creativity. This has to be amended. That would say that no corporation can patent life. You cannot patent a seed. You cannot patent a human genome. You cannot patent DNA. I don't give a shit about Dolly the lamb. I don't care how much effort you put into it. You cannot patent life. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 16 has got to be amended. Oh yeah, you know it's true, Sean. You know it's true. You cannot patent life. And that's what this has to change to. Card 41 of 86. We're almost halfway through the 7 articles of the U.S. Constitution. You didn't know on a Saturday in July that you would learn all 7 articles of the Constitution, and now you are. And here it is. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. Congress controls Washington, D.C., setting its laws directly, since it's the federal capital. Congress also controls federal property like military bases, even when they're inside states. To exercise executive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such districts not exceeding 10 miles square as may become the seat of the government. When does this change? Does anybody know when this changed? Anybody know when this changed? This changed in 1917 with the Organic Act. We're going to get more into that later, but that's what changed this Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. And from my perspective, after studying the Constitution and the states for the past 24 years, Washington, D.C. needs to become a state. And there's a million reasons why for it. I just don't want to get lost on this right now. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 has to be amended. You understand that? The District of Columbia has to become a state. We're at card number 42 of 86 cards, meaning we're almost halfway. This is called the necessary and proper clause, or the elastic clause. It gives it gives Congress the power to pass any law needed to carry out its other listed powers, which expands federal authority. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 18, to make all laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers. This has to be limited. This has to be amended. This is what creates a total police state. Right here. You're looking at it. This is what creates a total, utter police state. The necessary and proper clause, or the elastic clause. So what does elasticity mean? You know what elastic means. You know, it's on the collar of some of your jackets, your shirts, right? Okay? So here's what happens here. If the clause is elastic, then it can stretch or tighten. This, from my perspective, this has to be seriously amended. We cannot allow Congress to have the necessary and proper elastic clause. This is what allows the federal government to run amok over the states. And if you don't know, this is what Dumpster Fire is going to try to use to take control over state elections. He's going to use the necessary and proper clause, even though it's in the legislative article. He's still going to try to use this. This is bad. This is not good. That the federal government has the necessary and proper elastic clause to be able to expand any law for the execution of the foregoing powers. This is crap. This is crap. This is crap. This is too much. This is government run amok. This is the reason why we broke away from England to begin with, because they took all the powers for themselves. Card 43 of 86. We're almost done with the entire Constitution. Article 1, okay, this is where, and we're going to get Article 1, Section 9, Clause 4 is where we're going to get into the income tax in a second here. This allowed states to continue importing enslaved people until 1808. Congress could not ban the slave trade before then, but they could tax each enslaved person imported by 3/5. This clause was a compromise to keep southern states in the Union. Almost everything in our U.S. Constitution was a compromise so that the slave states would stay with us. Truthfully, what we should have done is we should have annexed those motherfuckers and kicked them out of our Union. That's what we should have done. But we didn't. And so today we still have this disgusting scourge of racism. And so just so you know, the Constitution, the ratification of the Constitution is going to begin in 1788. So remember, the Constitutional Convention is going to be in 1787. Then in 1788, the ratification process begins of the 13 colonies, which will become the 13 states. What happens here is when the ratification process begins in 1788, it's written into the Constitution that the migration or importation of such persons as any of the states now existing shall think proper to admit shall not be prohibited by Congress prior to the year 1808, but a tax or a duty may be imposed on such importations not exceeding $10 for each person. So this is what legalized the slave trade until 1808. And then, let me give you a little fun fact here. Then there was an act called the Abolition of the Slave Trade that passed in 1808. And by the way, Congress and the elitists were quick to pass it. It only went up for one vote, where they said, hey, we want to create an act that says we ban the importation of slaves. And every elitist and every member of Congress said, yes, let's pass this in 1808. Why'd they do that? How come they did that? Can anybody tell me the answer? Anybody tell me the answer? I'll pause for a moment because this is extraordinarily important. This obviously is no longer even relevant because this is about making sure the slave trade can continue until 1808. So why did it matter? Why did elitists who owned slaves and why did members of Congress and senators, why were they so quick to say, yes, let's pass that quick. Let's make sure there can be no more importation of slaves after 1808. Why'd they do that? Why'd they do that? How come? Why is that? I'll give you guys 10 seconds. The question, Charmaine Jones, is this is about the banishing of the North American slave trade, where mostly our best friends east of the Middle, who back then were Portuguese, they were bringing slaves over from Africa. And so then, written into the Constitution, ratification begins in 1788. Then it's written here that from the time of ratification for 20 years, the slave trade cannot be touched, cannot be abolished for 20 years. Then, at the 20th year in 1808, every member of the House and every member of the Senate and all the elites all agreed unanimously, yes, let's immediately ban the slave trade in 1808. You cannot import any more black slaves. Why'd they do that? Why'd they do that? How come? You're close, Apex. You're close. You're close, Apex. You're really close. That's not the whole answer. Survive your pretty valued slaves already here. You keep going. How come? Why though? Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. This is not tough. Let me put you like this, okay? Let me make myself a villain here, even though I'm not a villain. I already own 500 slaves. I own 500 slaves. You're the plantation next to me. You don't own 500 slaves. You own 20 slaves, but I own 500. So why would I be like, yes, let's abolish the slave trade, even though I have 500 slaves on my property? Why would I want to do that? Exactly right, some fucking dude in the chat. Because you're worth more. If I own you and you're on my plantation and the guy next door can't import any more slaves, I've already got women and men. I'm just going to breed them. I'm going to put a woman in a stable and then just load it up full of the biggest, strongest slave I have on my plantation to go impregnate her. So now if you're trying to keep up with me, you can't. You can't. I already own it. Thomas Jefferson already owned dozens and dozens of slaves. Thomas Jefferson was like, yes, 1808, let's get rid of the slave trade. Who's president in 1808? Thomas Jefferson, right here. Thomas Jefferson's president in 1808. Why does he want to abolish the North Atlantic slave trade? Because he's already breeding them. He's already breeding people. If you haven't read Uncle Tom's Cabin, published in 1850 by Marriott Beecher Stowe, if you have not read Uncle Tom's Cabin, you have no idea what slavery did to this country. You don't know, okay? So, Article 1, Section 9, Clause 1 banishes the slave trade in 1808. And when 1807 came around, the elitists and the slave owners said, yes, let's get this done. And they got it done on the first vote. Article 1, Section 9, Clause 2. Article 1, Section 9, Clause 2. Card number 44. Card 44 of 86. We're more than halfway done with the U.S. Constitution. No. Oh, I'm so sorry. You're right. It was... No, Madison's president 1809, not 1808. No. Because Jefferson's going to be elected 18... I'm looking at it right here. Yeah, it's Thomas Jefferson, my friend. It's on the wall. You can see it right there, right? That's okay. Don't. Oh, sorry about that. Sorry you got booted, man. Thanks, Terry. Appreciate that, man. Okay. So now we're over halfway through the U.S. Constitution. We're at card number 44 of 86 cards. Article 1, Section 9, Clause number 2. That's okay, Jimmy. I appreciate you keeping me on my toes, man. Listen, I'm not right all the time. There's errors on these cards that have to be fixed. I've made mistakes. I'm not perfect. Okay? You're welcome, Gio. Habeas corpus means the government cannot hold you in jail without showing a valid legal reason. This protection can be suspended in extreme emergencies like war or rebellion. So Abraham Lincoln suspended habeas corpus during the Civil War from 1861 to 1865. And why did he do that? It was later deemed unconstitutional what do you say when he's after Lincoln was dead? Posthumous, whatever. Okay. So this says here that habeas corpus says the government cannot hold you in a jail without showing a legal reason. This protection can only be suspended in extreme emergencies like war or rebellion. So why did Abraham Lincoln suspend habeas corpus? How come in 1862? Why'd he do that? He did it because you had federal judges all over these United States of America. And remember, back in 1862, you're talking America only goes to Kansas. It only goes east to Kansas. I don't have a map in front of me or I would show you. But America's only like one, not even, because James Polk is going to be president. He's going to expand America more than anybody else. I don't want to get off track here. The privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless when in cases of rebellion or innovation. No, that's wrong. I misread it. The privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless when in cases of rebellion or invasion, the public safety may require the suspension of the writ of habeas corpus. So I think the writ of habeas corpus is one of the most important parts of the U.S. Constitution. As a matter of fact, I would even go as far as saying in the new Constitution after the Revolution, we should expand the writ of habeas corpus. Nobody should be in jail or prison unless they are a danger to themselves and society. This should be expanded. Article 1, Section 9, Clause 2. This should be expanded, in my perspective. Oh, we're almost there. We're almost to Clause 4. Let's keep going. Card 45 of 86. Card 45 of 86. Congress cannot pass laws that punish someone without a trial, or laws that make something illegal after someone has already done it ex post facto. This protects fair treatment under the law. So in other words, you can't say that flying a kite is illegal and then go arrest Jennifer Hill because she flew a kite yesterday. That's what this says. No bill of attainder or ex post facto law shall be passed. So you can't say that. We're going to talk about it. We're just doing the 7 articles of the Constitution right now, Daniel. We're just doing the 7 articles of the Constitution. We're going to get into the 27 amendments next, but not today. So this says you can't pass a law today and then punish someone who did it yesterday. Pretty simple, right? Article 1, Section 9, Clause 3. Here's where it gets fun, okay? And this is where our Constitution gets completely bastardized in ways that you have not even begun to understand, because it's taken me 20 years to understand this, but I'm going to teach it to you now. Card number 46 of 86 cards. It means you only have 39 cards to go after this one. This originally limited direct taxes, like a head tax, where every single person has to pay a tax, to only being charged in proportion to population. This was later changed with the 16th Amendment, which allowed income taxes without apportionment. So this is a little confusing, and I'm going to try to explain it to you the best I can, okay? So this is confusing, though. So no capitalization or other direct tax shall be laid unless proportioned to the census or enumeration herein before directed to be taken. So let me explain it to you. This says no income tax. that the government cannot charge an income tax to individual people. That's what it says. Article 1, Section 9, Clause 4. That you cannot put a direct tax on the people. That's what this says. When did this get changed? That piece of shit, William Howard Taft, who was president from 1909 to 1912, during his presidency, he wrote the 16th Amendment that said you could apply direct tax to the people without apportionment. It's completely and utterly unconstitutional. You understand that? So when there's a revolutionary war, which is coming, and we're going to get a new constitution, there is no direct tax on the people. It was originally written in Article 1, Section 9, Clause 4, that you could not put a direct tax on the people. So then why'd they do it? Because World War I was coming. World War I was coming. And the direct figures of World War I are going to be 1915 to 1917, but World War I actually started before that, and we jumped into it in 1915, but World War I was going on from 1913 to 1917, and William Howard Taft is such a gigantic piece of shit that I really hope he's in hell, and I hope the devil has a pitchfork up his ass. He's such a piece of shit. He ruined our country, William Howard Taft did. Almost everything we're living through today comes from 100 years ago when William Howard Taft was president from 1909 to 1912, and then he was appointed to the Supreme Court from 1921 to 1930. William Howard Taft ruined this country. Absolutely ruined this country. If you don't believe me, read a book called Bully Pulpit. It's a New York Times bestseller that's based on the interminglings of the life of Teddy Roosevelt and William Howard Taft. When you read about what a piece of shit Taft is, remember the entire time, he believed he was doing the right thing. 1915 to 1919, did I get my years wrong there? Someone said, okay, so was it not, I'm sorry, 1915 to 1919, I believe. Yeah, because then you had the Red Summer of 1920. The Red Summer of 1920 is when black people had finally gone into World War I, and they worked under English and French legions in World War I from 1915 to 1919. And then, yeah, so there's going to be different things here, you guys, but we're pretty close here. So then when black people got back from World War I, so everybody thinks, John Brown thought that he could do a rebel uprising in 1863 and that he could go free black people and that they would fight along with the white people to overcome their enslavement. But the truth is, and we see this from the UFC, you have to learn how to fight. You don't just know how to fight. So from 1915 to 1919, when we were in World War I, black people for the first time learned how to fight through the military. And not our military, through the English military and the French military. The black soldiers mostly worked under the command of English and French. And then when they got back to the States in 1919, 1920, hundreds of thousands of black troops came back. And then there was the Red Summer of 19... I think we can go into more detail on World War I, but let me get through the articles. Card number 47 of 86. Card number 47 of 86 is Article 1, Section 9, Clause 5. The federal government cannot tax goods being exported from any state. This was meant to protect states that relied heavily on exports, like the southern states sending cotton or tobacco. So, no tax or duty shall be laid on articles exported from any state. Did this change? Has this been changed? Has this been changed? You bet your ass this has been changed. You bet your ass. You can get my cards on my website, DeleteLawz.com. Get the article cards or get the amendment cards. Okay. Rising Tides, what's up, Playboy? Okay, cool. I'll check my text. I haven't looked at my text messages. I mean, this literally says in Article 1, Section 9, Clause 5, that the federal government cannot tax goods being exported from any state that was meant to protect states that relied heavily on exports. Has this changed? Yes. 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 We get taxed when we drive. We get taxed when we get to work. We get taxed when we buy something. We get an income tax. We get a state tax. We get direct taxes without apportionment. We're taxed constantly. We're the most taxed people in the world. It's pathetic. Card 48. Card 48. We're almost done. You've almost learned the entire 7 articles of the Constitution. Card 48, Article 1, Section 9, Clause 6. No preference shall be given by any regulation of commerce or revenue to the ports of one state over those of another, nor shall vessels bound to or from one state be obligated to enter, clear, or pay duties in another state. Has this changed? Yes. Yes, it has. Yes, this has been changed dramatically. Let me read you the layman's terms of it. The federal government cannot favor one state ports over another. This was screwed from the Livingston dynasty. You see that right there? That's the Livingston dynasty right there. See that family tree right there? That's the Livingston dynasty. And what did they do actually? The Livingston dynasty actually got... So this was, just so you guys know, this right here, this article was broken by the Livingston dynasty. I believe that they got complete control over the Hudson River, and I want to say that was in like 1790. Pretty sure it was like 1790. So this whole thing is a fraud, okay? The federal government cannot favor one state's ports over another unless you're the Livingstons and you own all of New York. Ships traveling between states cannot be forced to stop and pay fees in states they aren't doing business in. This protects free trade between the states. So what do they do instead? What do they do instead? What happens instead? So now there's port fees. So if you're a vessel and you're traveling from Florida to California and you got to stop and dock in Georgia or Texas or... right? And you have to stop and you're going to go all the way around the Gulf of Mexico, right? Oh, I'm sorry. The Gulf of America, which is okay. It's kind of like a nothing burger, Article 1, Section 9, Clause 6. It's kind of like a nothing burger because this has been changed. Now they fee us and fine us everywhere we go. This says the federal government can't favor one state ports over another. They can't be forced to stop and pay fees. No, but they can put taxes on their diesel fuel. It's a scam. Article 1, Section 9, Clause 7. Card number 49 of 86 cards. The government can't spend money unless Congress specifically authorizes it. There must also be regular reports so the public knows how tax money is being spent. This ensures transparency and accountability. Do you guys see why we need a new constitution? Do you see why we have to keep a lot of parts of the old constitution, but we need a new constitution? Why is that? Because this is bullshit. This is not what's happening. No money shall be drawn from the treasury, but in consequence of appropriations made by law. And a regular statement and account of the receipts and expenditures of all public money shall be published from time to time. Ah! Did you see this bullshit? Did you see this? This is bullshit. Put in the chat. This is Article 1, Section 9, Clause 7 is bullshit. The actual text of the Constitution says that regular statements and accounts and receipts and expenditures of all public money shall be published. Is that what's happening? That's not what's happening. That is bullshit. That is not what's happening. Regular statement and account of the receipts and expenditures of all public money shall be published from time to time. Where's your money spent? Where's your money spent? Your money is spent on bombs, wars, cops, and cages. That's where your money is spent. Is it published? Do they publish it? No. No. The bulk of the budget here in California goes to cops and cages. The rest of the budget from California, we are the #1 earning state in the country. The bulk of our money goes to cops and cages here, and then the rest of the money goes to bombs and wars. Trump talking shit about California. Brother, if it wasn't for us, half the country would be broke. Dumb shit. Card 50. Card number 50 of 86. Card 50 of 86. Appreciate that, Jeff Hates Pigs. Thanks, brother. Appreciate that. Article 1, Section 9, Clause 8. Article 1, Section 9, Clause 8. This is called it's an error. Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3. 53? Sorry about that. I jumped ahead. 51. I apologize. Sorry about that. I mean, this is the first time I've gone over every one of these cards publicly so that you guys can understand what's in these cards. Thanks for the super chat. 65 bucks in super chats. I only saw Rising Tides. Thanks, Rising Tides. Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1. It's card number 51 of 86. This clause limits state power. States can't make treaties with other countries, print their own money, or pass laws that punish people retroactively. They also can't pass laws that break contracts already made. This is huge. If you guys don't know how huge this is huge. This is what allows our founding fathers to completely screw over the colonists. And I'll explain it in great detail. This is what screws over the colonists. The people who came here and fought for this country and died for this country. Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1. Limits state power. States cannot make treaties with other countries, print their own money, or pass laws that punish people retroactively. They can't pass laws that break contracts already made. States can't pass laws that break contracts already made. Well, what contracts are the founding fathers talking about specifically? The founding fathers had contracts with British nobles who claimed ownership of this land so that they could keep the land patents where British nobles gifted John Marshall, John Jay, James Wilson, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison. British nobles, because 90% or more of our founding fathers were what you called land speculators. Land speculators are where they're speculating land for the people who are the owners. Who's the owners of the land in the new America? It's the British nobles. Using the doctrine of discovery, the 1492 palpable, that says that any land discovered by a European Christian can be claimed, and all the inhabitants of that land will become subjects of the new owners, which are the British Christians. So they write this right here in Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1, that says that no laws can break contracts that are already made. Well, who made contracts? Who was it? It was our founding fathers. And who'd they make contracts with? British nobles. So what did Massachusetts do in 1787, 1788? Massachusetts, before it became a state ratified into the Constitution in 1788, Massachusetts made laws that said that no British loyalists can own land in Massachusetts. But who really owned the land? The land was owned by the British nobles who gave it to one of our founding fathers. Then our founding fathers wrote Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1, that states cannot make laws that trump federal contracts. Do you understand that? This is so important. I want to break and actually show you guys on the wall exactly what I'm talking about. This guy right here. This guy's named John Jay. He was the first U.S. Supreme Court Justice. He was Supreme Court Justice from 1789 with the foundation of the 1789 Judiciary Act until I believe it was 1803. No, not even. Not even. No, I misspoke there. It wasn't 1800s. So John Jay was the first Supreme Court Chief Justice from 1789 to 1795, roughly 6 years. Maybe you guys heard of the Jay Treaty. You heard of that before? Where he went over to England and cut a treaty with them so that the war could end and debts could be repaid? Well, what he did was, though, he got a bunch of land from British nobles. That's what he did. And then all the states in America, here, Virginia, Pennsylvania, New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Georgia, the Carolinas, they were one state at that time, Georgia, they all passed laws that said if you were a British loyalist or you got land from a British noble, that you could not keep the land. John Jay had a bunch of land from British nobles. Then they wrote Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1, that states cannot create laws that go around federal contracts. Do you understand that? Do you get it? The founding fathers were patriots that founded this country. And they made sure that they got the money, Lebowski. They made sure that they got to keep the land. That while we, the colonists, if you weren't black or Native American, if your white ancestors, like my mother's, fought in the Revolutionary War, we fought, and I believe that we were up in Connecticut, my family, my heritage was. I got the whole lineage of my family traced back. So we were up in Connecticut, my family was, and we were colonists who fought against the British. And then what they did in Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1, is they made it so that if you had a contract with a British noble, that the state couldn't pass a law that superseded the federal contract with the British noble. So how long did this last until? It lasted all the way until 1816, right here. Until the 1816 case of Martin versus Hunter's lessee, right here. This case right here. Right there. That case right there. This case right here, this was over Virginia land that was owned by who? The Chief Justice of the United States, John Marshall. John Marshall, Supreme Court Chief Justice from 1801 to 1835. Here. You see that? John Marshall is the one who owns that Virginia land. That is the entire case of Martin versus Hunter's lessee. Who is Hunter's lessee? That's you and me. That's the colonists. So in the case of Martin versus Hunter's lessee in 1816, who would be Hunter's lessee? It would be you and I, the commoners who worked the land. That's who it would be. And so in Martin versus Hunter's lessee, who's Martin? Martin is Denny Martin. Who's Denny Martin? He's a British noble. He never stepped a foot into America, not once ever. Never stepped his foot in the United States ever. And in Martin versus Hunter's lessee, John Marshall is Martin. Hunter's lessee is you and I, the commoners. Do you understand that? Do you get it? So we are the commoners. Hunter's lessee, we are leasing the land from Hunter, who has a deal with John Marshall to be able to lease out parcels of his land that we can then put cows on, grow corn, grow fruit, whatever we want to grow. Do you understand that? So in the 1816 case of Martin versus Hunter's lessee, it's not Martin and it's not Hunter's lessee. In the 1816 case of Martin, that's John Marshall. That's the Chief Justice of these United States of America. He has to recuse himself from the case. And why does he have to recuse himself? Because he is the guy who owns the land. He's Martin. John Marshall is Martin in Martin versus Hunter's lessee. Who is Hunter's lessee? It's the colonists. It's you and I. It's you and I who have worked the land, fought the British. Our sons and daughters have died. Do you understand? The founding fathers created a way for themselves to own the land that was gifted to them through land patents from the British nobles. Do you understand that? All of the study I've been doing for the past few years has brought me to this simple fact, that the founding fathers of this country, patriots though they may have been, they set it up. We haven't gotten to Article 6 of the Supremacy Clause that says federal contracts trump state laws. So they put it in twice. They put in Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1, that states cannot pass laws that break contracts already made. They put it in Article 1. They also put it in Article 6 of the Supremacy Clause, that federal contracts trump state law. Do you understand? They backdoored us. That's exactly correct. Because now let me break it down for you again. In Martin versus Hunter's lessee, Martin are the founding fathers. Hunter's lessee are the colonists. Do you understand that? Unless you were a slave or a Native American. Martin are the founding fathers who own all of the land in this country. And they got all of the land from British nobles. Hunter's lessee are the people who work the land. This case was about elitists versus commoners. Founding fathers versus colonists. And they wrote in Article 1 and in Article 6 that federal contracts can trump state laws. You get it? Nice to see you, Dolores. Thanks for coming by. So this is a nothing burger now. There's nothing we can do about this now. This clause limits state power. States cannot make treaties with other countries. We're not trying to do that now. They cannot print their own money. California can't make California dollars. You can't punish people retroactively. They also can't pass laws that break contracts already made. States are barred from granting nobles. States are barred from granting nobility to, like, there wouldn't be the Duke of California or the Prince of Los Angeles. These rules keep states from acting like independent countries and ensure national unity and economic stability. No. What this does is ensures that the founding fathers get to keep the land that was given to them by British nobles. That's what it is. Card number 52 of 86, Article 1, Section 10, Clause 2. Article 1, Section 10, Clause 2. We're at card 52 of 86. You've almost learned the entire U.S. Constitution. This clause prevents states from acting like mini countries within their own trade policies. States cannot tax imports or exports unless Congress approves it. And any money collected must go to the U.S. Treasury. This helps prevent trade wars between states and ensures Congress controls national trade policy. Article 1, Section 10, Clause 2 says that states cannot tax imports or exports. Okay, you get this on my website, Delete Lawz. It's $10. There is a couple errors in there, but if you buy them, I'm going to replace them. Believe me, I want you to get the correct cards. There's a couple errors I've caught just from me knowing what I know. I'm seeing it. I'm seeing a couple errors. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you there's no errors. There's a couple errors in these cards. And when I need you to get the cards, and when you catch the errors, email me and say, Chille, there's an error here. Card number 53. Card number 53. Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3. Article 1, Section 10. I know everything's backwards. I'm going to have to download this and flip the video. So just bear with me, okay? I just wanted to get this out live because I tried to do this in 1 minute at a time. but I just find that I can't stand watching myself back. I can't stand watching myself, so I can't do it unless I just do it live, and then the editor flips the video so you guys get it, so you can read everything, okay? I see you, Bay Area. I see you. This clause stops states from acting like independent military powers. States can't keep armies or warships in peacetime, make deals with other states or countries, or go to war unless they're under immediate threat. Congress has to approve these actions, making sure the federal government controls national defense and diplomacy. How does this have to be amended? In the new Constitution, after the revolution that is most certainly coming, how does this have to be amended, anybody? Anybody? Does anybody know how it won't be backwards when I flip this and I download this, so bear with me. Okay? How does this have to be amended? How does Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3 have to be amended? This says that states cannot keep armies or warships in peacetime, make deals with other states or countries, or go to war unless they're under immediate threat. Congress has to approve these actions, making sure the federal government controls national defense and diplomacy. This has to be amended to say that states have the right to defend themselves against the federal government. States have the right to defend themselves against the federal government. So that would mean that when some dumpster fire sends thousands of troops with masks into our cities, that the state could then send in a force to put them down, which is what should have happened in California, in Illinois. Should have happened in Massachusetts, should have happened in Minnesota. This should be amended to say that states have the right to defend their sovereignty against the federal government. Unfortunately. It's not what I want, but unfortunately. We're almost done. Card 53. Card 54 of the U.S. Constitution. We finally leave Article 1 and we go to Article 2, Section 1, Clause 1. Here it is. Article 2, Section 1, Clause 1. Card number 54 of 86. We're almost through the entire U.S. Constitution. Thanks for sticking with me. That's amazing, Nathan. Thanks. Hit my website. There's a donation button on there, and then email me your contact so I can call you, and we can work on how we do that. I have no problem. I want to get to as many people to know their rights. We're going to a revolutionary war in this country, people, and the U.S. Constitution must be preserved, but there's parts of it that have to be altered because we can see a centralized government without any checks on it by the states has absolutely decimated freedom in this country. We have to be willing to fight, and the fight's going to happen. Article 2, Section 1, Clause 1. This clause creates the presidency, giving all executive power to one person, the president. The president serves a 4-year term, and the vice president is elected for the same term. This clause establishes that the president is the head of the executive branch, responsible for enforcing laws and managing the country. So remember, Article 1 is the legislative branch of government. Article 2 is the executive branch of government. Article 3 is the judicial branch of government. Article 4 is the states and how they interact with each other. Article 5 is the amendment process for amending the Constitution. Article 6 is the Supremacy Clause. And Article 7 is the ratification process, which was already done in 1789. So you can almost forget about Article 7 because there's only 6 articles. Okay? So now we're in Article 2. Article 1 is the legislative branch. Article 2 is the executive branch. And this is the very first Section 1, Clause 1 of Section 2, which is the executive branch of government. And it says that we shall have one president elected for 4 years. That's what it says. Pretty simple. The only part I would amend on this goes back to the impeachment in Article 1, Section 3, I believe, that says that Articles of impeachment can only be brought by the House. I believe articles of impeachment should be able to bring by citizen referendum. That's what I believe. Card number 55 of 86, Article 2, Section 1, Clause 2. This clause sets up the Electoral College, where each state gets electors based on its population. State legislation. State legislatures decide how electors are chosen. Federal officials like senators or judges can't be electors. This keeps the states in charge of how they choose their electors, but prevents conflicts of interest at the federal level. This is fucked. This is fucked. This is absolutely screwed. In the new Constitution after the Revolution, Article 2, Section 1, Clause 2 has to be amended. We need to abolish the Electoral College. It takes away the power of a democratic republic and puts it into the hands of the Electoral College members. We saw this plain as day when Bernie Sanders was beating Hillary Clinton. And the Electoral College absolutely, totally, and completely fucked him, okay? And they fucked us in the process. Excuse my language, okay? We have to be able to bring articles of impeachment through citizen referendum. This clause sets up, let me read it. Each state shall appoint in such manner as the legislature thereof may direct a number of electors equal to the whole number of senators and representatives to which the state may be entitled in Congress. But no senator or representative or person holding an office or trust or profit under the United States shall be appointed an elector. But this is wrong, and this has to be changed. This has to be changed. We need to abolish the Electoral College. We are at card number 56. We are at card number 56. Card number 56 is Article 2, Section 1, Clause 3. Card 56 of 86 cards. You will have learned the entire U.S. Constitution today. This clause originally set rules for presidential elections, but it was replaced by the 12th Amendment after the election of 1800, led to confusion. Now electors vote separately for the president and the vice president. This change ensured smoother elections with clearer outcomes. Okay, so originally, just so you know, and let me read the original text because the original text will sum it up better than the breakdown that I put on here. Electors in each state vote by ballot for two people, at least one from outside their state. They send a list to the voters, to the president of the Senate. This used to say that they would take the top two people, and the top one would be president, and the second one would be vice president. And that changed in the 1800 election. That changed. So now we elect a president, and he chooses his vice president. Okay? That's all that says. Card 57 of 86 articles. You can get these on my website, DeleteLawz.com. There's a couple errors. Get the cards. Show me the errors. I'll redistribute the cards to you because they're digital. They go on your phone. And I need your help to determine which cards are incorrect. There's a couple incorrect cards. What's the matter? You's in the chat. What's up, Playboy? Article 2, Section 1, Clause 4 states this. Congress sets the date for the presidential election and for when electors cast their votes. This keeps the election process uniform across all states so the country votes on the same day for fairness, which is perfectly fine. Right? Perfectly fine. I agree with that. Card number 58 of 86. This is card 58 of 86. Article 2, Section 1, Clause 5. Article 2, Section 1, Clause 5. This clause sets the qualifications for the president. He must be born a U.S. citizen, must be at least 35 years old, must have lived in the United States for at least 14 years. These rules aim to make sure the president is loyal to the country and has enough experience. So do you see where it has two things on here about residency, okay? Must be born a U.S. citizen. So there's the first one. Must have lived in the United States for at least 14 years, okay? Must be at least 35 years old. I don't see anything wrong with this. Although you guys remember that Martin Van Buren is going to be elected president in 1837, pretty much after Andrew Jackson is going to anoint Martin Van Buren to be president in 1837. Martin Van Buren didn't speak very good English. He only spoke Dutch. He was born in New York, and he was a U.S. citizen for more than 14, U.S. resident for more than 14 years. But Martin Van Buren in 1837 would not be elected today. He was pretty much anointed president by Andrew Jackson, who was so enormously popular, he could have won 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 terms, Andrew Jackson, because Andrew Jackson was for states' rights, unfortunately. Liberty Lane in the chat, thank you. We are on card 59 of 86 cards. This clause says if the president dies, resigns, is removed, or can't do the job, the vice president takes over. Congress can also pass laws saying who takes over if both the president and the vice president are gone. As we know, the 25th Amendment completely clarified this. Oh, it says here, the 25th Amendment later clarified the rules for presidencies, disability, and succession. So people think that the 25th Amendment is some simple amendment. The 25th Amendment is deep. There's 4 different parts of the 25th Amendment, and we're going to get into those because we have, additionally to these cards, we also have all 27 amendment cards on my website that are available for you to be able to learn the Constitution. So we have these. We're going to do these next. We're going to do the 27 amendments next, just not today. So this one right here, Article 2, Section 1, Clause 6, this is pretty much a nothing burger because the 25th Amendment completely lined out how, number 1, you get rid of a president, number 2, who takes their place, number 3, how they can be taken down. There's 4 parts to the 25th Amendment. We'll get into it. Card number 60 of 86. Card number 60 of 86. Article 2, Section 1, Clause 7. Article 2, Section 1, Clause 7. This clause prevents states from acting like many countries within their own trade policies. States can't tax imports or exports unless Congress approves, and any money collected must go to the U.S. Treasury. This helps prevent trade wars between states and ensures Congress controls national trade policy. Let me check something. Double checking. Double checking. Okay, it's accurate. I want to make sure. Yeah, because what I'm seeing on here is the ratification on these cards is incorrect. The Constitution was ratified on June 21st, 1788. I have ratified March 4th, 1789. So I saw it and I'm like, that's not correct. So I'm right, it's not correct. Okay, So that's the error on the cards. Forgive me. What's up, Russell? Hopefully we can get through all of these cards before my phone dies here, because I want to make sure we get through it. So this is correct. The card is correct. Article 2, Section 1, Clause 7. It's just the ratification date on it is incorrect, which I'll fix. We're at card 61. We're at card 61. Card number 61 of 86 cards. If you want to learn the U.S. Constitution, watch this whole video back and you'll learn it. Article 2, Section 1, Clause 8. The President must swear an oath to follow the Constitution and faithfully do the job. This oath makes it clear that the President's first duty is to the Constitution, not to any person, party, or state. Did you see that? I'm in 9 active federal lawsuits. 9, not 1. 9, yeah. No, you're wrong. Damn it, Janet, you're dead wrong. Watch the whole video, Janet. There's several parts of the Constitution that must be changed. So remember earlier in the president's term, he was sitting down for an interview and he asked him, well, isn't that in the Constitution? And the president said, well, I don't know anything about that. I have lawyers. Well, if you read Section 2, if you read Article 2, Section 1, Clause 8, it says plain as day right here. So when Trump said, I don't know anything about that, you'd have to talk to our lawyers about the Constitution. It says here that the president must swear an oath and follow the Constitution and faithfully, oathfully do the job to make it clear that the president's first duty is to the Constitution, not to any other person, party, or state, including another country east of the middle. You understand that? Trump, your job is to uphold the Constitution, not to intermingle our militaries with a foreign nation. Yeah, damn it, Janet, there's several things on here that have to change. Card 62 of 86. Cards right there. Article 2, Section 2, Clause 1. Article 2, Section 2, Clause 1. The president is the top military commander for the Army and the Navy and the state militias called to federal duty. Now, this has to be altered as well. The president can ask cabinet officials for advice and can pardon or reduce sentences for federal crimes, but cannot pardon someone impeached by Congress. This clause gives the president significant military and legal powers, balancing those with checks in case of impeachment. Okay, this has to change. The pardon power needs to be able to be vetoed by 2/3 of the House and 2/3 of the Senate. We cannot allow a president like this one to be paid off in the billions of dollars to pardon people. This has to be changed. There's several parts of this that have to be changed. The president is the top military commander for the Army and the Navy. I agree with that. And then it goes on to say, and any state militias. No. No. The states have the power to form their own militias to defend itself against federal overreach. The Second Amendment is not for hunting or fishing. The Second Amendment is to kill government agents should they turn tyrannical. This says that the president is in charge of the militias in the states. Absolutely fucking not. Absolutely not. Then it goes on to say the president can ask for advice from the cabinet, and has the ability to pardon people. The pardonability must be tempered by being able to be overrode by 2/3 of the House and 2/3 of the Senate. We don't have state militias so the president can be in charge of them. We have state militias in case the government turns tyrannical against us and tries to take away our First Amendment, our Second Amendment, our Fourth Amendment, our Fifth Amendment, our Sixth Amendment, our 10th Amendment, our 14th Amendment. That's why we have state militias. We don't have state militias so the president can be in charge of them. Fuck that. Card 63 of 86. Card 63 of 86. There's only 86 cards to learn the U.S. Constitution. It's right here. Article 2, Section 2, Clause 2. The president can negotiate treaties with other countries, but the Senate must approve them by 2/3 of a vote. The president can also nominate judges, ambassadors, and key federal officials, but those nominations must also be approved by the Senate. For lower level officials, Congress can let the president, the courts, or the department heads make appointments directly. This system balances presidential power with Senate oversight. No. No. This is a recipe for the deep state. This is a recipe for the deep state. Let me read it to you again, and let me go through and correct it as we read it. The president can negotiate treaties with other countries. The tariff power was just limited by the Supreme Court. A broken clock is right twice a day. But the Senate must approve them by 2/3 of a vote. The president can nominate judges, ambassadors, and key federal officials. Absolutely fucking not. Federal judges have to run on a platform of how they will uphold our civil liberties, how they will defend the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, 6th, 9th, 10th, 14th. Federal judges need to run as a public officer, and they have to run on a platform of how they will uphold our fucking civil rights. You don't just get to appoint someone like Clarence Thomas, an Uncle fucking Tom, who was put through college on affirmative action and groomed to be an Uncle Tom against the people. All Supreme Court justices and all federal judges should be elected by the people, and the power to impeach should be left up to citizen referendum that the House must then open impeachment hearings against Clarence Thomas, against Thomas Alito. God bless America. My God. This is what has ruined our country and created a deep state. Do you understand that? Things have to be changed. Congress can let the president, the courts, or department head makes appointments directly. No! 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 We, the people, will decide who works in our offices. They will not be appointed. They will not be appointed. This is wrong. This is what creates the deep state. Article 2, Section 2, Clause 2 creates the deep state. I'm not angry, Gabriel. I'm just passionate. There's no history of me ever losing my cool on anybody ever. And you have seen me get arrested 3 times, and all 3 times I just submitted. Card number 64. Card number 64 of 86 cards to learn the entire U.S. Constitution. Article 2, Section 2, Clause 3. When the Senate is not in session, the president can temporarily fill vacant positions in the government. When the Senate is not in session, the president can temporarily fill vacant positions in the government. These recess appointments only last until the Senate finishes its next session. This helps the government keep running when the Senate isn't around. But the temporary nature ensures the Senate still has oversight when they return. No. No. Fuck no. No. We now have a phone in our hands. We can vote right here through the phone. This says right here, the president can appoint people when the Senate is not in session. That's the breeding of corruption. That's the breeding of corruption. This has got to be changed. I'll bet you didn't know these things. Card 65 of 86. Article 2, Section 3. This clause outlines the president's duty to report to Congress, now known as the State of the Union speech. The president can call a special session of Congress, handle foreign diplomats, enforce federal laws, and officially appoint federal officers. No. No more appointments. Appointments are what gets the deep state because they're not held accountable by the people. I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat, a liberal or a conservative. Anytime someone is appointed for you and I in a constitutional republic, they do the bidding of whoever appointed them. I don't care if it's Biden or Trump or Bush or Clinton or Gore. I don't care who it is. When you allow people to be appointed to government positions, that is what makes corruption happen. Because then they are beholden to the people who appointed them. None more than Grover Cleveland, McKinley, Herbert Hoover, Chester A. Arthur, Garfield. So let me give you a little history here so you understand it, okay? When Garfield was president, you had what was called the stalwarts and the half-breeds. And you're talking about the late 1800s here. And you have to understand what happened. Chester A. Arthur had the ability to appoint people in the docks of New York. But that appointment then carried with it a salary that today would be $1 million a year. The half-breeds and the stalwarts then went to war for decades and decades and decades. That's how Garfield was killed, and that's how McKinley was killed. They were killed because they didn't appoint the right people in the right places. This here, Article 2, Section 3, says the president can appoint people to federal offices. It emphasizes the president's role as law enforcer and chief representative of the nation to the world, ensuring laws are followed and government runs smoothly. No, this ensures corruption. This ensures a deep state, is what this does right here. Card 66 of 86. Card 66 of 86. Article 2, Section 4. This section establishes how high-ranking officials can be removed from office. The House of Representatives can impeach. No. The people need to impeach by citizen referendum. And the Senate holds the trial. No. It doesn't work. There's been no federal official that's ever been successfully impeached at the Supreme Court or president level. The Senate holds the trial. Removal only happens if they are convicted of treason, bribery, or other serious high crimes and misdemeanors. Hasn't Trump been convicted of felonies and high crimes? He has, right? So then why isn't he removed from office? This leaves Congress rooms to decide what misconduct justifies removal. This clause is key to government accountability, ensuring even the most powerful officials aren't above the law. Is that what's happening, though? Is that what's happening? That the most powerful officials are not above the law? Didn't we see an Epstein billionaire class of people who are not even public officials? Didn't we see the Department of Justice that's established in 1866 after the 13th Amendment establishes that we're going to abolish slavery? Didn't we see the Department of Justice has been co-opted? Didn't we see confirmation hearings for a piece of shit named Todd Blanche who's been covering up for pedophiles? That's what this does. When you allow people to be appointed, we're fucked. Moving on, Article 3. So remember, Article 1 is the legislative branch of government. Article 2 is the executive branch of government. Article 3 is going to be the judicial branch of government. This is the shortest article of all 7. Well, I think Article 7 is shorter. It's just about the ratification. But Article 3 is the second shortest article of all. We're almost done Liberty Lane. We're done in, we're at card 67 of 86. So we're really close to being done. Article 3, Section 1, Clause 1. This clause creates the federal court system. It establishes the Supreme Court at the top and lets Congress create lower courts as needed, circuit court, district courts. Federal judges keep their jobs for life. No, 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 no. Absolutely not. Oh, are you lost, Cope Dog? Sorry, you can't keep up, man. I'll try to slow it down for you. So this is Article 3, which is the beginning of the judicial branch of government. Article 3, Section 1, Clause 1. Pretty simple. And what this one says, there's 7 articles of the Constitution. This is Article 3. And this says, this clause creates the federal court system. It establishes the Supreme Court at the top and that Congress can create lower courts and, as needed, more courts. Federal judges keep their jobs for life. That's what it says. How's that working out? As long as they show good behavior, which protects them from political pressure. Federal judges and Supreme Court justices have been politicians since the beginning of our country. They can't be cut, ensuring their independence from Congress or the president. This system guarantees a strong and independent judiciary, separate from the other branches, to protect the Constitution and individual rights. This is not how it's working. What a scam. Card number 68 of 86. We're almost done. Article 3, Section 2, Clause 1. Article 3, Section 2, Clause 1. This clause gives federal courts authority to hear cases involving the Constitution, federal laws, and treaties. It also covers international matters, including cases involving ambassadors or foreign officials, and maritime law. Federal courts also handle state disputes, cases between citizens of different states, and some land disputes. The list defines the types of cases federal courts can decide, ensuring national legal consistency and fairness in cases across state and national lines. But is that true? No. No. I mean, the biggest thing that we take away from Article 3 is the appointment of federal officials for life. That has got to be changed. That's got to be changed. Card 69 of 86. Article 3, Section 2, Clause 2. This clause defines the Supreme Court's power. The court hears some cases, first, original jurisdiction cases, like those involving ambassadors or states suing each other. The 11th Amendment changed that. In most cases, the Supreme Court hears appeals, meaning cases start in lower courts and only reach the Supreme Court if appealed all the way up. Congress can set limits on what the court can review, giving the legislative branch some control over the Supreme Court caseload. We should absolutely pack the court and make them be elected, is what should happen. Card number 70. Card number 70. You can get my cards on DeleteLawz.com. There's a couple errors on them, but I'll replace them as we fix them. Article 3, Section 3, Clause 3. The President is the top military commander for the Army and the Navy and any militias called to federal duty. The President can ask cabinet officials for advice and can pardon or reduce sentences for federal crimes, but cannot pardon someone impeached by Congress. This clause gives the President significant military and legal powers, balancing the checks and balances of impeachment. I don't think the President should be in charge of state militias. I don't think the President... The entire reason we have a state militia is to be able to fight back against the federal government should they turn tyrannical. And I don't think that the president should be able to be in charge of state militias. I think that's the opposite of freedom. That's the opposite of liberty. Card 71 of 86. Card 71 of 86. This clause defines treason as either waging war against the U.S. or helping its enemies. We have a bunch of treasonous traitors in our government today, don't we? Put a 1 in the chat if you know what I'm talking about. Because our greatest, bestest friends who live east of the middle are a bunch of murderous genociders, and I want nothing to do with it. This clause defines treason, supporting a foreign nation that is murderous, and to me is treason. To convict someone of treason, the government needs 2 witnesses to the same treasonous act, or the person must confess in court. This narrowed definition protects people from being wrongfully accused of treason, especially for criticizing the government or political disagreements. Really? That's funny. Who was that couple that was executed right around the time of... Who was that couple that was executed? You remember this? It was right around 1919. Who was that couple? Can't remember off the top of my head. Card 72 of 86. Card 72 of 86. Article 3, Section 3, Clause 2. This clause lets Congress decide how treason is punished. It's usually death. But it limits how far punishment can go. Families can't be punished for a relative's treason. No corruption of blood. Any property taken can only be held while the convicted person is alive. This stops the government from punishing innocent family members for someone else's crime, which was common in European history. So I don't see anything wrong with it. I believe we're at 73 here. 73 is the beginning of the states. So remember, the 7 articles break down as such. Article 1 is the legislative branch of government. Article 2 is the executive branch of government. Article 3 is the judicial branch of government. Article 4 is the states and how they interact with each other. And that's what we're starting right now. Article 4, Section 1 reads as follows. This requires each state to honor the laws, records, and court rulings of other states. For example, if you get married in California, you're still married if you move to Texas. Congress can set rules for how this works, ensuring a legal act in one state is respected in all states. This helps unify the country and ensure fairness when people move or do business across state lines, which I believe is called the full faith and credit is what this is called. I think this is Article 4. Card 74 of 86. Article 4, Section 2, Clause 1. This says each state must treat visitors from other states the same as it treats its own residents. So in other words, a Texan visiting Florida has the same basic rights as Floridians. States cannot discriminate against outsiders just because they're from a different state. This helps promote equality and unity across the country. But that's not how it worked. That's not how it worked. Until the modern era, until there was cameras everywhere, it used to be where you would be in another state and you'd be treated differently. Card 75 of 86. Card 75 of 86, Article 4, Section 2, Clause 2. If someone commits a crime in one state and escapes to another state, the first state can request their return or extradition. The governor of the state where they are hiding usually approves the extradition, sending the person back to face justice where the crime happened. This helps states work together to catch criminals. How was this used, though? How was this used originally? Does anybody know? Can anybody tell me the answer to this? So this is going to be ratified 1788. But how is this used in 1788? Let me read it again. This means that if someone commits a crime in one state and escapes to another state, the first state can request an extradition. How was it used? How was this used back in 1788, 1789? Anybody? Anybody? Yes. King Kenyon got it right. It was used for slavery. It was used for slavery. You were considered a criminal if you ran away from a slave state and went to a free state. You were called a criminal for wanting freedom. That's right. You got it. Yep, that's right. You got it, Lake Erie. That's exactly correct. We're at card 76 of 86. We have 10 cards to go, and we got through all 7 articles of the Constitution. Article 4, Section 2, Clause 3. Card number 76. This clause was about runaway slaves requiring that they be returned to their owner, even if they fled a free state. This clause was rendered moot by the 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery. Today, it's a reminder of the deep division over slavery in American early history. This card's bullshit, and let me tell you why. Requiring that runaway slave be returned to their owners, even if they fled a free state. So you were considered a criminal if you helped someone get away from slavery. You understand that? So you were a criminal if you helped somebody else get away from slavery. We are at card 77 of 86 cards, almost through all the articles of the Constitution. This gives Congress the power to admit new states, but it sets rules. No state can be split up or combined with another without approval from both state legislatures and Congress. This prevented states from being changed without consent, protecting state boundaries and rights. New states may be admitted by Congress into the Union, but no new state shall be formed or erected within the jurisdiction of another state. Where did this kind of go awry? Anybody? Anybody know which state that this went totally different? States can be formed by junction of 2 or more states or parts of states without the consent of the legislature or the states concerned, as well as of the Congress. So where this went awry, what year? I'll give you a clue. It was in 1863. Which state was it that split in half in 1863? What was it? Anybody? It wasn't Texas. It wasn't DC. Which state split in 1863? And this was kind of moot because one part of the state said, no, we're breaking off. Which state was that? Anybody? 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 Virginia. Exactly correct. You got it right. It was West Virginia, actually. West Virginia was not down with slavery, and they broke off from Virginia. Virginia was like, fuck this. West Virginia formed, and it literally went against that entire Article 4, Section 3, Clause 1 was completely changed. It wasn't Dakota. It was West Virginia. So now we're at card number 78. Card number 78 of 86 cards. And this is Article 4, Section 3, Clause 2. Congress has power over U.S. territories like Puerto Rico or Guam. They make rules for how these areas are governed. It also protects federal property and ensures states can't claim federal land. This keeps control of territories with Congress until they become states or gain some other status, which is bullshit. Ask the people of Puerto Rico. Card 79 of 86 cards, where you've learned all 7 articles of the Constitution. Article 4, Section 4. This right here is how we're able to get rid of the data centers. I'll make a video about this later tonight. I'll record it and I'll put it out. This one right here is how you get rid of data centers in your state. The federal government guarantees, this is called the guaranteed clause, guarantees every state will have a Republican form of government, meaning that elected leaders, not monarchs or dictators. It also promises to protect states from foreign invasion and keep them and put down internal rebellions if they ask for help. This guarantee is a stable democratic system in all states. This guarantees a stable democratic system in all states. Let me explain it to you as quickly as I can because I don't want to get off track. I'm not going to say it. 79, and we need card 80. Card 80 is the beginning of Article 5. Article 5 is how you amend the Constitution. Let's go over it again. Article 1 is the legislative branch of government. Article 2 is the executive branch. Article 3 is the judicial branch. Article 4 is the states and how they interact with each other. Article 5 is how you amend the Constitution. Article 6 is the Supremacy Clause. And Article 7 is the ratification process, which already happened in 1788. It's already done. So there's really only 6 articles. Card 80. Article 5, Section 1. Article 5, Part 1. So it's not Section 1, it's Part 1. This clause lets Congress decide how treason is punished, but it limits how far punishment can go. Families can't be punished for a relative's treason, no matter how the corruption of blood. Any property taken can be held. This stops the government from punishing innocent families. Part 5, Article 5, Part 2. There are 2 ways to ratify amendments. 3/4 of the state legislatures approve it, or 3/4 of special state conventions can approve it. You understand that? So if you want to put an amendment in the Constitution, the first way is 3/4 of the state legislatures approve that the Constitution can be amended. Or Part 2, 3/4 of special states conventions approve it. So it's 3/4 of the states, either 3/4 of the state legislatures or 3/4 of a special state convention. Article 5, Part 3. There were 2 limits on amendments. Before 1808, no amendment could stop the slave trade or change taxes on exports. Part 2 of this is no state can lose its equal vote in the Senate unless the state agrees to diminishing its own vote. That's card 82. Now, this is the beginning of Article 6 of the Supremacy Clause of the U.S. Constitution. So this is the problem we're facing now. If you don't understand, I'll teach it to you. Now that we've gone through a full run through, I'll teach it to you. This clause guaranteed that any debts and agreements made under the old government, the Articles of Confederation, 1787, would still be honored by the new government under the Constitution. This is a scam. My dog's over here, sorry. This helped make sure the new United States was seen as trustworthy. This is bullshit. This is bullshit. This clause guaranteed that any debts and agreements made under the old government, the Articles of Confederation, would be honored by the new government. This was for the founding fathers so that they could keep the land that was gifted to them by British nobles. That's why this exists. That's why this exists. Article 6, Clause 2, card number 84 of 86. We're almost done. This is called the Supremacy Clause because it says the U.S. Constitution is the highest law of the country. Federal laws and treaties, as long as they follow the Constitution, are more powerful than state laws. Even state judges have to follow the Constitution and federal laws, no matter what their own state laws say. This makes sure that the states play by the same basic rules under one national system. Article 6, Clause 3, card 85. This clause requires all federal and state officials to swear an oath to follow the U.S. Constitution. It also guarantees that no one can be forced to follow a certain religion or pass a religious test to serve in the government. This means that the government can't favor any religion or block someone from office just because of their personal beliefs. It helps keep church and state separate and protects religious freedom for everyone. Article 6, Clause 3. Last card. like I said, there's 7 articles of the U.S. Constitution, but really only 6 because Article 7 was ratified in 1788. There's an error on every card. It says 1789. I apologize. The ratification of the Constitution of 9 states shall be sufficient for the establishment of this Constitution between the states, so ratifying the same. This article explains how the Constitution officially becomes the law of the land. That's what this does. And this Article 7 was ratified in 1788. So Article 7 is done. Started in 1788, done in 1788. Do we understand that? Started in 1788, done in 1788. Okay? Article 7 is only the ratification process. Okay? So it's already done. It's already done. There it is. There it is, folks. There's all 7 articles of the U.S. Constitution. No. No way. No fucking way. It just blanked over on... Oh my God. It just blanked. Jesus. I better end this live stream. It just blanked over on Instagram. It just deleted the whole thing. That was terrible. I'm so sorry. That sucks so bad. I hope I didn't lose that whole video. That sucks. I didn't end it. It just I don't know what happened. It just cut out on me on Instagram. I'm so sorry. There it is. There's the 7 articles of the U.S. Constitution. They're available on my website. I can't believe that just happened. I hope I didn't lose that whole video. That was a 2-hour plus video. It was almost a 3-hour video on Instagram. I hope I didn't lose it. I have no idea what just happened. That sucks. Okay, listen. I got to get the flock out of here before this thing ends on me. Thanks for watching. Go to my website. Get the 7 articles. There's some errors on there. Get them, and I'm going to replace your cards, all right? I got to get the flock out of here. I'll see you guys on the next one. Later, Gators.